My name is Alan Gale, second son of the Gale barony, a small noble family with barely more status than commoners. Every 3 years, the kingdom picks 10 noble second sons and gives them a charter to claim frontier land. Today was selection day at the docks of St. Bridget City. Here's the thing about being a second son of a minor noble: you get treated like free labor. For 3 years I've been feeding horses, shoveling dung, chopping wood, and hauling cargo, jobs a servant would get paid for. And when I turn 17 next month, my father and stepmother will kick me out with nothing. That's just how it works for second sons like me. So there I was, sitting in the lowest seat on the noble stands, when the city's magistrate, an honorary viscount who outranks my own father, came to deliver my lucky news. The big noble families had generously offered one challenge spot to a minor noble's son, and that spot landed on me. Why so generous? Because the random draw picked an island crawling with dark creatures, 10 skeleton soldiers surrounded by a black death mist that eats away at your body. Every rich second son suddenly lost their fighting spirit. They're here to win titles, not die. But the rules say you can't skip an island. Someone has to go, or the slot is wasted. So the big nobles needed a fall guy. The magistrate's guards went around collecting bribes from all the minor noble sons to skip the selection. Everyone paid up. Everyone except me, because my pockets were emptier than my future. I tried to refuse, but the magistrate threatened my family's taxes. If I said no, my father would blame me, and I'd leave home next month without a single coin. I negotiated, started at 1 gold coin, haggled back and forth, and settled for 10 silver, pulled straight from the bribe money the guards had just collected. I also asked for a longbow instead of a sword, since my body is too weak for close combat. The magistrate announced me to the crowd. When they heard I was from some nobody family, the boos started. Everyone could tell I was just the sacrificial lamb. I didn't even have leather armor, just an oversized silk outfit that's probably been in my family for generations. The drawbridge to the floating island dropped. A guard wished me good luck with a smirk and shoved me forward. When I first arrived in this world 3 years ago, I tried using knowledge from my past life to improve things. I figured out composting, using manure as fertilizer. Simple stuff. But nobody listened to a worthless second son. So I did it myself in secret, and it actually worked. My reward? A chicken leg. Literally 1 chicken leg. And a brand new chore. I became the family's official fertilizer maker. My father declared composting a top family secret, never to be shared outside the castle walls. Fantastic. So there I was, standing on the bridge to the island, legs shaking, regretting everything. 10 silver coins wasn't worth dying for. I could have just become a servant at some noblewoman's estate. With my looks, maybe even marry up. But I gritted my teeth and stepped onto the island. The death mist hit me like ice crawling under my skin, trying to burrow in. Then I heard a chime in my head. Energy points 0.1. 0.1. 0.1. My system had finally woken up. I'd had this thing, the Universal Enhancement System, since the day I arrived in this world. It lets me see enemy health bars and, supposedly, strengthen anything by spending energy points. The problem was I'd spent 3 whole years trying to earn even 1 energy point. I tried good deeds, killing bugs, feeding horses laxatives, nothing worked. But now, just standing in this dark mist, the energy was flowing in. Once I hit 1 point, the system showed me my bow stats and offered 3 upgrade paths: firing speed, bow strength, or critical damage. I picked firing speed. It cut the pull force in half. Perfect for my weak body. The other advantage? While the mist blinded normal people to about 5 or 6 meters of visibility, my system let me see every skeleton's position through their health bars. I drew my bow. The first arrow punched through a skull, shattering the green soul flame inside. The skeleton collapsed into a pile of loose bones. And I heard, Energy 1. So that was the secret. Killing monsters gives energy. I kept shooting. Outside the island, everyone assumed I was either running for my life or already dead. The big noble sons even started a betting pool on how long I'd survive. But their fathers noticed something. The screaming on the island was getting quieter, not louder. Then the death mist started fading. When it cleared, the crowd saw me standing in the middle of the island, bow in hand, surrounded by nothing but scattered bone piles. The magistrate's face was priceless. He'd sent me there to fail, so the round would end. Instead, I'd won the last charter spot. The commoners erupted in cheers. For the first time in over a decade, a minor noble's son had won. The big noble sons just stared. I swore loyalty to King Dorian VI of the Falcon Kingdom and received my pioneer charter. But when I opened it, my heart sank. My assigned territory was the Desert of Death. Every other winner got the Harvest Plains, rich and safe. Mine was a wasteland full of hostile tribes and dark creatures. The noble sons who'd been too disgusted to stand near me suddenly found me hilarious. One named Jimmy couldn't stop laughing as he spread the news. As the crowd scattered, all that earlier jealousy turned into pure pity. Then, surprisingly, the magistrate found me again. He introduced himself properly. Frank, the magistrate of St. Bridget City. He apologized, sort of, and reminded me there were bonus rewards I hadn't collected yet. A workhorse worth at least a gold coin, a new leather vest, a standard-issue longsword, and a round iron shield. For someone like me who'd never owned anything, that gear was a small fortune. Even my father's entire barony, a territory the size of a small township, had fewer than 50 soldiers equipped that well. Frank patted my shoulder, told me he believed in me, and walked away. Just like that, the old fox turned from a bully into a kind mentor in seconds. That's what I call noble self-cultivation, the kind of face-switching skill that only politicians master. I had to admit, even with 2 lifetimes of experience, I couldn't match him yet. I strapped the long sword to my waist, fixed the leather vest and shield to the saddle, slung Frank's personal gift, the longbow, across my back, and tucked a letter of introduction into my shirt. Then I mounted up and rode out. The Gale Barony was over 50 miles from St. Bridget City. Normally, I'd have to wait for my half-brother and 2 family guards to ride back in the carriage. But now I had my own horse. On the road, I checked my system. 10 energy points from those 10 skeletons. So the secret was killing supernatural creatures. No wonder 3 years of squashing bugs and doing good deeds got me nothing. My father Sinclair would never have taken me monster hunting, and the Gale territory sits deep in the kingdom's heartland where dark creatures don't roam. That night, camped near a town called Springfield, I opened my stats. The system could enhance anything, even roadside rocks, but I wasn't stupid. I dumped all 10 points into Constitution. My body had always been too weak to cultivate battle aura, the key to power in this world. I was born premature, and despite years of practicing the family's flame aura technique, I'd never produced even a spark. After the upgrade, my constitution jumped from weak to normal, my strength nearly quadrupled, agility doubled. I could now swing that heavy 2-handed longsword with one arm. Muscles appeared on my forearms where there used to be nothing but skin and bone. My mind felt sharp and my exhaustion vanished. Best of all, I tried the flame aura technique again, and a faint red glow flickered across my palm. It worked. After years of grinding the technique until it was second nature, all I'd been missing was a body strong enough to channel it. Now I just needed to absorb enough aura elements to form a battle aura seed. I may have laughed like a maniac in the bushes all night. The next morning, the local lord sent guards to investigate reports of strange cackling outside town. By then I was long gone. The Gale family castle sat on high ground above the Mira River. No garden, no fancy domes, just a plain stone fortress with a 30-foot moat. Ugly compared to any big noble's estate, but it was the seat of power for 30 miles around. I rode up at dawn. The guards on the wall were stunned to see me arrive alone on horseback. I tossed the reins to a guard, told him to feed and water the horse, and walked straight inside without explaining anything. A maid named greeted me in the corridor, respectful enough. Servants here don't openly disrespect nobles, even poor ones like me. It's not just about family honor. The entire noble class depends on commoners never daring to look down on any noble, no matter how broke. I asked where Lady Mary was. The maid pointed me to the parlor. Mary, my stepmother, was lounging on the sofa in a thin purple silk dress, brown hair spilling everywhere. I'll be honest, she's beautiful. That's exactly how she keeps my father Sinclair wrapped around her finger. The man's a brute who only knows fighting. A woman like Mary is his weakness. Standing guard nearby was Mary's personal maid, glaring daggers at me as usual. She's even prettier than Mary, younger, sharper features, though I dock her 5 points for the attitude. Both my father and Mary's 13-year-old son have their eyes on that maid. Only Mary's watchful grip has kept them at bay. "You're back already?" Lady Mary sat up lazily on the sofa, her seductive pose instantly replaced by the sour face she always saves for me. She didn't even ask how the selection went, just told me to go shovel horse dung from the stables. I held my temper. Instead, I looked her up and down with a bold stare I'd never dared before. She shifted uncomfortably, then snapped at me, asking if I thought my wings had grown strong just because I was leaving in a month. I smiled. "Actually, Lady Mary, I met a nobleman in St. Bridget's City who wants to hire me to manage his estate. I'm leaving today." She didn't care much, good riddance, from her point of view. But then I dropped my real move. "Father privately promised me 10 gold coins as a farewell gift," she exploded. 10 gold coins was a fortune. The entire Gale barony only earns 70 or 80 gold a year, and after taxes and expenses, maybe 20 or 30 gets saved. Giving me 10 would physically hurt her. Of course, my father Sinclair never promised me anything. I made it up, but I had leverage. I told her Sinclair had offered the money so I wouldn't compete with her son Nick for Cassie Farm, a small territory my father won through military service. As the older second son, I had a legitimate claim. That got Mary's attention. Then I showed her something that really shut her up. I channeled the flame aura I'd practiced all night and flashed a brief red glow from my palm. Mary and her pretty maid both froze. Everyone knew I'd never been able to produce battle aura because of my weak body. Now I could. I told her a viscount had recruited me, which was better than some tiny farm, but if she didn't pay up, I might just wait for Sinclair to come home and press my claim instead. My father was currently away on a military campaign, helping Earl Irving put down a peasant revolt in a neighboring barony. He'd taken my older half-brother along for war experience and was due back any day. Mary's face cycled through several shades of purple and white. The haggling began. She started at 3 gold. I held at 10. We went back and forth until I shifted tactics. I asked for gold plus people. Specifically, I wanted Thomas, a male servant being groomed as a future house steward, and Caroline, Mary's beautiful personal maid. Caroline panicked. She begged Mary not to give her away, revealing that Mary had promised her she'd be married off to a noble family after 10 years of service. Her dream was to become a nobleman's wife. I played my trump card. "Lady Mary, Caroline is too pretty to keep around. You know what Sinclair is like. And did you know even Nick has started eyeing her? He's 13, at a critical age for training his battle aura and willpower. Distractions like that could ruin him." That did it. Mary went quiet, thinking it over. Caroline could see her mistress wavering and grew desperate, but Mary silenced her with a sharp, "Shut up." We settled. For gold coins, Thomas the manservant, and Caroline the maid. In exchange, I'd sign a written guarantee never to come back asking Sinclair for money or help. I was more than satisfied. Under normal circumstances, I'd have been lucky to leave home with a handful of silver. Now I had gold, 2 capable people, and a head start on my new life. While I was washing up, I could hear Caroline still crying in the parlor. Whatever Lady Mary said to her eventually stopped the tears, though. Mary went to fetch the contracts for Caroline and Thomas. Both of them were bound by lifetime service contracts, not like regular servants who sign on for a few years. Caroline knew all of Mary's personal secrets, and Thomas was being trained as a future steward. That kind of position requires total ownership. They'd get paid and could visit home sometimes, but their lives belonged to whatever noble held their contract. After my bath, I put the old silk outfit back on, no point being picky. Mary had already sent the 4 gold coins and both contracts to my room, along with word that Thomas and Caroline were waiting in the courtyard. She clearly wanted me gone fast. I started packing. I needed to hurry. If Nick and the 2 family guards got back from St. Bridget's City before I left, my whole story about "Father promised me gold" would fall apart. Packing didn't take long. I owned almost nothing. A few linen shirts, the silk outfit I was wearing, and a silver bracelet left by my birth mother, who died bringing me into this world. Then someone knocked. I figured it was a servant rushing me along, but the door opened and in walked a thin little figure. Lilia, Lady Mary's daughter from her first marriage. Mary's first husband had been the eldest son of a viscount family. He died in battle before inheriting the title, leaving Mary a widow with only a daughter. His brothers grabbed the inheritance, so Mary remarried, to my father Sinclair. She brought Lilia along, and to his credit, Sinclair didn't mind. Lilia actually had it slightly better than me in the castle. Mary didn't pick on her own daughter the way she picked on me. But the girl was still lonely. My older half-brother was too busy being the heir. Nick bullied her. Mary poured all her attention into Nick. I was the only one who'd been kind to her, telling her stories when she cried as a little girl, missing her dead father. She'd sneak me extra meat at meals in return. She was 13, but looked about 10, skinny and small. Pretty though, with Mary's fair skin and even finer features. She'd grow up beautiful someday. She stood there twisting her hem, head down, saying nothing. I knew. She'd heard I was leaving. Lilia, come here. I sat her on the bed. Tears dripped onto my shirt from her buried face. I pulled out 2 little storybooks I'd bought at that town last night. Knight and Princess Tales on sheepskin paper, palm-sized, only 7 or 8 pages each, but a silver coin apiece. Alan, I don't want books. Can't you stay? Normally she'd have squealed with joy. Not today. I can't stay, Lilia. But listen, I have a secret. I'm a lord now. I have my own charter. Once I build my territory, I'll have a castle, land, everything. When I'm settled, you can come live with me. I'll save you the prettiest room and buy you storybooks every day. She didn't understand words like development or opportunity, but she understood castle and lord. And she believed me because I'd never lied to her. The truth was, I wasn't so sure myself. My territory was the desert of death, chaos and danger at every turn. But I couldn't tell her that. She took the books and started helping me fold my clothes, one by one, with a neatness that made my heart ache. In my previous life, I'd lived past 30 and never folded clothes that well. Lilia, take care of yourself. It was late spring, almost summer. I rode ahead while Thomas and Caroline followed on foot. Even when the castle shrank to the size of my fist, I could still picture Lilia hiding behind her little window, watching me leave, tears on her face. Before I left, I gave 2 gold coins to old John, the castle steward, and asked him to enroll Lilia at the Noble Academy. Tuition was 2 gold per year. Money Lady Mary had never been willing to spend on either of us. Even Nick only got 1 year there. Old John had served the Gale family for 3 generations. He was white-haired, had no children, and had never stolen a coin in his life. I trusted him completely. If something happened to me out in the desert of death, at least Lilia would have an education. A year at the academy would help her find a decent husband someday. Behind me, Thomas kept looking back at the castle. 9 years he'd worked there, since he was 16. He'd watched me grow up and often helped me with chores when my body was too weak. He was loyal by nature, not resentful like Caroline, whose red eyes told me she was still bitter about being handed over. I told Thomas I'd give him something better than being a castle steward. He took it well. As for Caroline, she wasn't a bad person, really. She'd sometimes distracted Lady Mary mid-scolding to give me a break. Her problem was vanity and the arrogance that came from being a personal maid. But she could read and do math, which made her genuinely valuable. Half a day after I left, Nick came racing back to the castle in the carriage. He'd deliberately taken the carriage into town during my challenge to make me wait and sweat. Instead, he heard the news I'd won. He rushed home screaming for his mother. When Mary found out I'd actually won a pioneer charter, and she'd been tricked out of 4 gold coins plus 2 servants, she nearly lost her mind. Nick was devastated too, mostly about losing Caroline. After 2 weeks of travel, I arrived at Sandgate City on the southern border with Thomas and Caroline. This was the last stop before the desert of death. I pulled out Frank's letter of introduction and walked into the civil affairs office. The local magistrate was a man named Locke, Frank's old classmate from the Noble Academy. "Uncle Locke," I said politely. "Uncle Frank told me to find you if I needed help." Locke looked me over, then sighed. He told me that 2 years ago, the desert of death would have been manageable. Not anymore. Here's what he explained. The desert of death is a massive wasteland, roughly the size of a kingdom, bordered by 3 kingdoms, a forest, and a grassland. Habitable areas cluster around scattered oases. The people living there are refugees and outcasts from all 3 kingdoms. Lawless, ruled by strength alone. Some groups have built actual cities around the largest oases. Others are barely surviving around tiny water sources. The real problem was politics. All 3 neighboring kingdoms, including our Falcon Kingdom, used to maintain proxy forces in the desert to keep rivals out. But 2 years ago, The Falcon Kingdom's entire proxy network was destroyed overnight. We had 0 presents left. Worse, the other 2 kingdoms had issued bounties. Report a Falcon Kingdom aligned group. 1 gold coin. Wipe one out and deliver proof. Up to 10 gold coins. And pioneer lords like me were explicitly included in the bounty. 10 gold coins for my head, I muttered. My face must have gone pale. A single gold coin could change a peasant family's life, like being worth 10,000 in my old world. 10 gold coins for my head. People would line up to cut it off. Locke wished me luck. I tried to leave him 2 silver coins as thanks, but he refused. Good, that meant he respected me. As the magistrate of Sandgate City, I'd need his help down the road. Outside, Thomas greeted me properly. Caroline just pouted, muttering about the heat and hunger. My original plan had been simple. Publicly recruit settlers here in Sandgate City, a major southern trade hub with 300,000 people. Pick a dozen farming families who knew how to survive in desert conditions, start small, and grow from there. Pioneer lords get 3 years tax-free, which usually attracts settlers easily. But after what Locke told me, that plan was dead. If I openly announced myself as a Falcon Kingdom pioneer lord, I'd be a walking bounty before I even crossed into the desert. I really wished I'd recruited people along the road instead. I led my 2 servants to a roadside food stall to eat and think. The place was simple but clean, with skinned rabbits hanging on a pole. After weeks of hard bread and bitter-dried meat, I ordered a whole rabbit, half roasted, half stewed. 20 copper coins. A nobleman eating at a street stall. How embarrassing, Caroline muttered behind her silk handkerchief, wrinkling her nose at the dust. I ignored her. Ever since we left the castle, she'd been like this. Lady Mary had apparently told her to play along, then steal back her contract and run home when she got the chance. So Caroline followed, but made sure I knew she hated every second. Thomas, ever the good servant, smoothed things over. Miss Caroline, we're traveling. The rabbit is fresh. There's nothing improper about it. While eating, I noticed 5 men at a nearby table, 4 in linen shirts, 1 in a worn silk outfit nearly as old as mine. They weren't watching me. They were watching Caroline. Even dusty from travel, her pale skin and refined bearing stood out in this desert border town. I caught fragments of their whispered conversation. Pretty. Worth good money. Only 5 of us. Real noble, can't mess with. Shame. They backed off when I looked their way, but an idea started forming in my head. After I finished eating, I let Thomas and Caroline have the leftovers. I'd cut everything neatly for them beforehand. Thomas ate gratefully. Caroline sat down and immediately complained. How can anyone eat this? The stall owner stood nearby, wringing his hands nervously. I glanced at the 5 men, then back at Caroline. A plan clicked together. Maybe I could use those men to help launch my territory and teach my spoiled maid a lesson at the same time. I slammed my palm on the table. Caroline, do you even remember what you are? You're my servant. I haven't complained once, but you won't stop whining. I've had enough. Here, take your contract. You're free. Get out of my sight. Go wherever you want. She froze. Despite all her attitude, she hadn't expected this. For a second she looked hurt. If I'd found her behavior unacceptable, why hadn't I said something sooner? Then she looked at the contract in my hand. Her eyes lit up. You mean it, Alan? Take it and go. She snatched up the paper, confirmed it was really her lifetime service contract, and could barely contain herself. Thank you, Alan. Whatever else, thank you. She curtsied, hiked up her skirt, and sprinted into the crowded street like her life depended on it. Master. Thomas stood there, half-eaten rabbit leg still in hand, staring at the spot where Caroline had vanished into the crowd. Don't say anything, Thomas. Let her go. 15 days on the road and she's disrespected me more times than I can count. I waved him off. Thomas shut his mouth, but I could see worry in his eyes. He'd grown up from a peasant family and spent 9 years in castle service. He knew what the world was like outside safe walls. A beautiful woman alone near the border was like a child carrying gold through a dark alley. Just as I expected, those 5 men at the neighboring table stood up. Their soup bowls were still half full. They hitched up their cargo cart and casually followed the direction Caroline had gone. I smiled to myself. No rush. I let Thomas finish eating. Caroline, meanwhile, ran all the way to the city gate before she stopped to catch her breath. The excitement faded and reality hit. She was alone, half a month's journey from the Gale Barony, with just a few silver coins. Right on cue, One of the 5 men approached her. He called himself Lancer, wore a faded silk outfit, and played the part of a polite gentleman merchant heading north. Caroline needed a ride north. He offered one for 50 copper coins. She thought she'd gotten lucky. She hadn't. Once the cart turned off the main road onto a quiet, overgrown path, Caroline realized something was wrong. She asked Lancer if they'd taken a wrong turn. No wrong turn, beautiful miss. This road leads to the desert of death. Before she could react, all 5 men surrounded her. They tied her up, gagged her with rags, stuffed her into an empty grain sack, and buried it under other sacks on the cart. The cargo they'd loaded in Sandgate City was just straw and dead leaves. The whole setup was a trap for catching people to sell. Lancer figured she'd fetch a few dozen silver coins as a slave. The fact that she was a noble's personal maid made her even more valuable. They headed south into the desert. 10 kilometers behind them, Thomas and I were walking back along the same road we'd arrived on that morning. "Master, why are we going back the way we came?" Thomas was confused. "Just follow me, Thomas." I couldn't explain it to him yet. What I was watching was my system's map, another free feature I discovered. It showed a 10-kilometer radius around me, marking every living creature as a colored. Green meant friendly, yellow meant neutral, red meant hostile. The deeper the color, the stronger the feeling. Mixed colors showed complicated attitudes. Yellow with a hint of red meant someone who disliked me, but wasn't truly dangerous, while yellow-green meant mild fondness. Right now, my map showed 6 dots moving south ahead of me. 5 were deep red, Lancer and his men. The 6th was yellow tinged with red, that was Caroline. She didn't like me, but she wasn't my enemy either. This map feature might seem small, but for a pioneer lord trying to build a territory in hostile land, it would be priceless. I could spot enemies, judge people's true feelings, and track movements, all without spending a single energy point. I followed the dots at a safe distance. My plan was coming together. Back at that roadside stall, I'd already figured out those 5 men were trouble. They made a basic mistake. The one pretending to be a nobleman was eating at the same table as his servants. That's actually illegal here. Nobles and servants never share a table. Real castle servants know this rule by heart. These guys were fakes. Plus, the leader wasn't just admiring Caroline's beauty. He was sizing her up like merchandise. That reminded me of something Locke had mentioned. Slave trading is big business in the desert of death. So I put it all together and came up with my opening move as a lord. I kicked Caroline out on purpose. She was bait, and those idiots bit. They couldn't even finish their soup before chasing after her. 5 men, 1 rabbit between them, and they still had leftovers. Caroline alone would have eaten more than that. They were in a hurry. Everything played out as I expected. They grabbed Caroline and headed into the desert. I followed using my system map, keeping 10 kilometers behind. 5 days through burning sand. The heat was brutal, like walking inside an oven. I stopped riding my horse to save its strength. Our water was almost gone. I was ready to attack early if I had to. Then the map finally showed something. A basin with a small settlement. About a dozen crumbling buildings, 52 people total. Lancer and his 4 men had brought Caroline inside. Thomas and I crawled to the top of a sand dune, 200 meters out. No walls, no guards, just a rundown village. Villagers were cooking and chopping wood in the center. Lancer's crew lounged on stone benches while the locals served them nervously. My map told me everything I needed. Lancer's 5 men glowed deep red. They'd attack me on sight. But all the villagers showed pure yellow. Neutral, no hostility toward me. This wasn't a bandit hideout. It was just a small community being bullied by these 5 thugs. This was my plan. Take out the 5 men, claim the settlement. Since I couldn't openly announce myself as a Falcon Kingdom pioneer lord without a bounty on my head, I'd build up in secret first, grab territory, grow quietly, and only reveal my identity when I was strong enough. The kingdom's rules said I just needed to declare myself and pass inspection within 3 years. To the south, my map showed more settlements, the nearest barely a mile away. This whole area must have been a lake bed centuries ago, with underground water still close to the surface. Where there's water in the desert, people gather. "Master, what are we doing here?" "This is the desert of death. It's dangerous." Thomas was shaking beside me. "Thomas, do you want to be a steward?" "Yes, but not here." "You do want it." "I don't." "You do." "Now shut up. That's an order." Thomas looked like he might cry. I think he was starting to realize this wasn't the cushy estate job he'd been promised. After dark, campfires lit up the settlement. Lancer was celebrating, sharing smoked meat and bitter rum with his men. I could hear them laughing about Caroline, planning to enjoy her before selling her at a place called Red Wolf City. I checked my bow, counted my arrows, and waited for the right moment. Inside that shack, Caroline was shaking. She'd heard every word these men said over the past 5 days. They planned to use her, then sell her as a slave in Red Wolf City. A woman like her could fetch a full gold coin on the auction block. Lancer stepped into her room, licking his lips, calling her a gift from the gods. Caroline begged, offered him the 5 silver coins in her pocket. He laughed. She was worth 200 times that. Then he left to wash up first, saying he wanted to properly appreciate the gift. Caroline broke. She wanted to die right there, but her hands and feet were bound. She regretted everything. Leaving me, her arrogance, all of it. She even wondered if I'd come rescue her, then laughed at herself for thinking something so ridiculous. I didn't even know where she was. And why would I help someone who disrespected me for 2 weeks straight and then ran away the first chance she got? She figured this was the gods punishing her for disloyalty. What she didn't know was that I was already 50 meters from their campfire. I'd put on my leather vest, strapped the sword to my waist, and gripped my bow. Thomas had begged me not to go. I ordered him to stay put and crept toward the settlement under moonlight. Most of the village was asleep. Only Lancer's 4 men sat around the fire, grinning and joking about what Lancer was doing to Caroline tonight. I drew my bow. The first arrow hit the loudest one right as he was laughing. He dropped and started twitching on the ground. Before the others could process what happened, the second arrow buried itself in another man's neck. 2 down in seconds. The remaining 2 finally snapped out of it. They saw me standing in the shadows with my bow and completely lost their nerve. These men were kidnappers, not fighters. They scrambled on all 4s for 2 full seconds before finding their feet and sprinting away screaming for help. They weren't fast enough. My 3rd arrow caught one in the calf. He stumbled up and kept limping. Embarrassing for me, honestly. I took a breath and put the next arrow in his back. He dropped for good. The 4th man made it almost to the edge of the clearing before an arrow found his back too. For down. But the noise brought Lancer out of his shack, half-washed, furious, until he saw his men sprawled across the dirt. His eyes went wide, and he ducked back behind the door. "Who are you? We can talk. You want this camp? Take it. It's yours." He assumed I was some desert warlord looking to seize territory. That kind of thing happened all the time out here. I put an arrow into the door. He slammed it shut and locked it. I dropped the bow, drew my sword, and walked up to the door. "I'll take the camp," I said. "And your life?" I started slamming my shoulder into the wood. Lancer barricaded himself inside, gripping a wood-splitting axe. He threatened me, said the neighboring settlements were his friends, and they'd come running when they heard the noise. I stopped pushing the door, let him think I'd left. 20 seconds of silence. Then I heard him press his head against the door to listen. I punched straight through the wood. My fist hit his cheekbone dead on. The bone shattered. He crumpled to the floor, dazed and terrified. After my constitution upgrade, I could do things no ordinary person could. Punching through a wooden door was proof enough. Lancer realized he was dealing with someone who had battle aura, at least a titled knight in his mind. He begged, offered me the camp, offered me the pretty woman inside. I told him the camp was already mine, and so was his life. And that woman? She was my servant to begin with. Recognition flickered in his eyes just before my sword ended it. I walked into the back room. Caroline was curled in the corner, bound and terrified. When she saw me, leather vest, bloody sword, cold expression, she couldn't believe her eyes. "Hey, Alan, how did you end up here?" I said, acting annoyed. She burst into tears and threw herself at me for a hug. I stepped aside. She'd been through hell, sure, but I wasn't about to let her off that easy. Before she could gather herself, Thomas came bursting in holding a stick as thick as his wrist, his idea of a weapon. He'd spotted someone running from the settlement toward the neighboring camp and came to warn me. I wasn't worried. My map showed everything. The villagers here had stayed huddled in their houses during the whole fight. These weren't bandits. But the neighboring settlement was now moving. A man named Val Ironhide was leading about a dozen men our way to investigate. I worked fast. I had Thomas help me with one task: hang Lancer's body from a wooden pole in the middle of the clearing, with his 4 dead men piled beneath it. A message. Val and his people crept up to the settlement's edge, trying to stay hidden. They had no idea my map had tracked them from the moment they left their camp. When they finally got close enough to see by moonlight, they froze. Lancer dangling from a pole. 4 corpses stacked below. That got their attention. "Are you here to help Lancer?" I stepped out of the shadows, sword in hand. Val Ironhide and his dozen men nearly jumped out of their skin. They'd been staring at Lancer's body hanging from the pole with his 4 dead men piled below. Now they had a blood-spattered stranger walking toward them. Val recovered fast. No connection to Lancer at all. Friend. He got himself killed. That's his problem. We just came to look. My map confirmed it. Their dots were yellow with a faint red tinge. Wary of me, but not hostile. Safe enough. I sheathed my sword. They relaxed. Val explained that he led the neighboring settlement and had been allies with the previous leader here, an old man named Joe. Lancer was Joe's adopted son who'd killed Joe a year ago and taken over. Val's people had actually wanted revenge, but held back because of the family connection. So I'd accidentally picked the perfect target. Killing Lancer didn't make me enemies. It almost made me popular. "This settlement is mine now," I told them. "Any objections?" They shook their heads. "Desert rules. Whoever takes it, owns it. Fair and simple." I introduced myself as Alan Gale and told them I was easy to get along with, as long as nobody caused trouble. Val agreed we'd be good neighbors, and they left. My map tracked their conversation as they walked away. Val figured out I was a noble from the Falcon Kingdom based on my equipment and pale skin. His men wondered if I was a pioneer lord, but Val dismissed that. Previous pioneer lords had arrived with hundreds of followers, not alone. He told his people not to mess with me and said he'd meet with the other settlement leaders to discuss the situation. Back at the camp, Thomas and Caroline came running from their hiding spot, staring at me like I was a stranger. I couldn't explain the system to them, and I didn't need to. One man had stayed behind, the villager who'd run to alert Val. My map showed he wasn't one of Lancer's gang. He'd gone for help because he was worried about the settlement's safety. "What's your name?" I asked. "Megan Sandworm, boss," he stammered. "Terrible name. Very common-born." I asked if he had any problem with me killing Lancer. He shook his head so fast it might have fallen off. Lancer had beaten and bullied them constantly. Good riddance. I told him to go door to door and let everyone know the settlement was under my protection now, and to call me Master Allen, not boss. These people didn't care who was in charge. They just needed someone who'd let them survive. Then I brought Thomas inside. He was my future steward, the one person I needed to trust completely. I pulled out the Pioneer Charter with the Royal Steel Seal. "Master Allen, you're a Pioneer Lord." Thomas's hands were shaking, eyes wide. He'd thought following me meant giving up his dream of being a steward. Now he realized he'd be steward of an entire territory. Caroline was standing behind us, uninvited but not chased away. Her eyes went just as wide when she saw the charter. That single piece of sheepskin was a ticket to nobility. "That's right, Thomas. This is why I took this settlement. Your steward position is secure." Thomas took the news well. He was nervous about being in the desert of death, but when I asked if he was scared, he straightened up and said old John had taught him to serve his master with loyalty. That's exactly why I chose him, reliable to the bone. I shared everything Locke had told me about the desert. Thomas caught on quick. "So you'll hide your identity, build up as an outsider, and reveal yourself as a pioneer lord once you're strong enough." Smart man. He also pointed out the biggest problem. Without a lord's title on display, nobody would voluntarily join us. I wasn't worried. In a place where strength makes the rules, I could swallow smaller groups and grow. The only question was whether I could get strong enough fast enough. Thomas left to bring back the horse and supplies. That left me alone with Caroline. I stayed silent. She couldn't take it. "Master Allen, don't call me that. We have no relationship anymore." The tears started flowing. She begged, said she knew she was wrong, dropped to her knees. I told her I'd have Thomas escort her to Sandgate City in a couple days so she could return to the Gale Barony. She panicked. After the kidnapping, she was terrified of traveling alone. But more than that, she'd just learned I was a pioneer lord. She was the only woman at my side. If she stayed, her position could become something real. And honestly, after I'd burst through that door like a knight to save her, she didn't hate me anymore. She actually felt guilty about how she'd treated me. I could see all of this. The effect was exactly what I'd planned. "Fine," I said. "You can stay." But you made mistakes, and mistakes require punishment. I'll accept any punishment. Stand up. Bend over. She did, confused. Then, smack. One firm slap, right across her backside. Her face turned bright red. What are you doing? Punishing you, I said, keeping my expression perfectly innocent. Punishment is supposed to be a switch across the back. That's how it's done in every castle. I don't have a switch. Besides, a switch would leave you sore for days. Then how would you do your duties? This way is more practical. Of course, if you'd rather not accept it, you're free to leave. She was speechless. I'd somehow framed it as consideration for her well-being. Get some rest, I said, heading for the door. Oh, and the standard minimum punishment is 10. So we're not done yet. I walked out before she could respond. Behind me, I could almost hear her brain short-circuiting. Outside, I let myself grin. The proud maid was already cracking. Give it time, and she'd be completely tamed. The three of us slept in the same house that night. Me on the bed, Caroline on the floor in the bedroom, Thomas by the front door. Next morning, Caroline was already up before me. She brought in a basin of clean water and insisted on wringing out the towel herself before handing it to me. 3 years in this world, and nobody had ever done that for me. She was trying hard. On my way out, she stopped me. Master Allen, your punishment. She'd decided to get it over with. If she'd already taken the first one, refusing the rest would mean the first was pointless. I gave her one more, just one, and told her the rest could wait until tomorrow. Left her standing there frustrated. Keeping her guessing was part of the plan. Outside, Thomas had gathered all the villagers. 49 people, 11 households. Men, women, old, young, all thin, ragged, and hollow-eyed. Thomas wanted me to give a rousing speech. I refused. These people didn't need promises or big dreams. They needed food. Whoever feeds them earns their loyalty. Whoever feeds them well earns devotion. Simple as that. I let them see my face so they'd know who was in charge, then put them back to work. Megan Sandworm showed me how the settlement survived. 2 things, fire dates and iron scraps. Fire dates are a fruit unique to the Desert of Death. Look like red-yellow dates. Grow on tall trees about 30 feet high. The settlement had 5 trees that produced around 100 ripe fruits daily, except in winter. Each fruit sold for 1 copper coin. Iron scraps came from some ancient war that supposedly devastated this region ages ago. People scavenged weapon fragments from the sand and sold them. No wheat, no vegetables. Small settlements like ours couldn't grow crops. Why not plant more fire date trees? I asked. The math seemed good. 1 tree could feed 2 families. Megan led me to the walled yard where the trees grew, and I understood immediately. The soil was black, imported from outside the desert. The desert's own sand was toxic to plants. Nothing grew in it. Imported soil cost 10 copper coins per pound. That's insane. 1 gold coin for 1,000 pounds. The merchants who controlled the soil trade must have been making a killing, backed by powerful groups who monopolized the supply. And there was a bigger problem. Fire date trees drank enormous amounts of water. The settlement's single well was down to about 3 feet of water, half of what it held 2 years ago. At this rate, it would run dry within a few years. No water meant no trees. No trees meant no income. No income meant the settlement dies. Thomas frowned. We'd just taken this place, and it was already on a countdown. I walked over to the well and looked down. 15 meters deep, 1 meter wide, stone-lined walls. Maybe a meter of water at the bottom. Then, a chime. Energy points 0.1. I blinked. I hadn't done anything. Hadn't killed any creature. I checked my system panel, and the number was real. 0.1 energy had appeared from nowhere. Where did that come from? Energy 0.1. Again. And I hadn't killed anything. I looked around and zeroed in on some village women picking fire dates nearby. I asked how many they'd just harvested. 2 women said they'd each picked 1. 2 dates, 2 chimes, 0.1 each. I asked one to pick another. She did. Energy 0.1. That was it. Harvesting crops on my territory generated energy points. I checked my map and saw the settlement was now outlined in light green with my name on it. The system panel read, within the host-controlled territory, any production generates energy points. 3 years I'd cursed this system as useless. Turns out it wasn't broken. I just hadn't had territory. If I'd started with land from day 1, I'd have been unstoppable by now. The path forward was crystal clear. Farming. Farming everywhere. As much as possible, even in this desert. Then the system showed me something else. I looked at the yellow desert sand and got a readout. The soil was contaminated with chaotic elements from some ancient catastrophe. Nothing could grow in it. Purifying 1 square meter cost 2 energy points. 1 to remove the contamination, 1 to restore fertility. An acre would need over 1,300 points. Way too expensive right now. But the imported black soil was fine, medium fertility, slight water loss. It could be enhanced too, 1 point per cubic meter. The real crisis was water. I looked down the well and got the worst news yet. Water depth, 0.9 meters. Daily output, 0.9 cubic meters. Lifespan, 1 year before it runs completely dry. 1 year. Megan had guessed a few years. The truth was far worse. The good news, upgrading the well cost 10 energy points per enhancement, and a single well could serve over 100 households if the water supply was strong enough. With 100 fire dates harvested daily, I'd earn 10 energy points per day. By tonight, I could do the first well upgrade. My new plan was simple. Farm to generate energy, use energy to improve the land and water, grow more crops, earn more energy. A loop that feeds itself. Then Val Ironhide showed up at the settlement's edge, asking to see me. In daylight, he was a typical desert dweller. Sun-scorched red skin, dusty tangled hair, faded linen shirt. He looked me over and seemed surprised at how young I was. Hard to connect the fresh-faced teenager in front of him with last night's killer. Val had come to walk me to the iron scrap fields. Each settlement had assigned scavenging zones, and he didn't want me accidentally stepping on someone else's turf. Along the way, he filled me in on how things worked around here. The biggest power in our region was the Red Wolf Gang, based out of Red Wolf City. Below them were various bandit groups and larger settlements. At the very bottom were tiny communities like ours. The Red Wolf Gang mostly left small settlements alone. We were too poor to bother with. But they controlled the iron trade. Outside the desert, scrap iron sold for 15 copper per pound. We only got 5. The Red Wolves took the difference. In return, they cleared dark creatures away from the scavenging grounds. The real threats came from other small settlements. No laws out here. Fists make the rules. Just like I killed Lancer and nobody cared. If someone killed me tomorrow, nobody would avenge me either. Val's real purpose was obvious. The old alliance between his settlement and Joe's needed renewing. He wanted me in. I was strong, and that made me useful. I played along. I needed his local knowledge just as badly. Half an hour's walk brought us to the scavenging grounds, the ruins of a massive ancient city. Val called the central fortress Black Nest, meaning it was a dark creature hive. Extremely dangerous, with mid to high level dark creatures roaming inside. The whole area was supposedly the capital of some ancient kingdom, population 5 or 6 million, surrounded by 8 satellite fortresses. We worked at one of the satellite ruins called Dead Knight Ruins, named after someone spotting a terrifying death knight there once. Groups of ragged workers from various settlements were already digging when we arrived. My eyes locked onto the thick death mist swirling in the inner city. For everyone else, that meant danger. For me, it meant a river of energy points. Val noticed me staring and assumed I was nervous. Don't worry, we dig in the outer city. The death mist stays inside. He showed me the alley assigned to Joe's settlement, my territory now. About 300 or 400 meters long. My villagers were already hacking at the ground with wooden hoes and shovels, digging into pits about 2 meters deep. I'd assumed scavenging iron meant picking scraps off the ground. Not even close. Anything on the surface was picked clean centuries ago. The iron came from underground, buried corpses. Val explained how it worked. Black Nest was supposedly connected to some kind of hellish underworld. Dark creatures poured out endlessly, but they could only survive inside death mist. To expand their territory, they needed to spread the mist, which they did by burying corpses underground. These corpses slowly generated death mist over time. Every month or so, a dark creature surge would erupt. The big powers would step in to kill the overflow of creatures. Then people like us were left to dig up the buried corpses and drag them into sunlight, which neutralized them. Our reward was whatever scraps of armor and weapons remained on those ancient bodies. After centuries or millennia of decay, weapons meant rusty metal fragments. No coins, no treasures, just iron scraps good for smelting. Occasionally someone found a special metal worth more, but that was like finding money on the street. My 35 villagers could dig up maybe 10 pounds of iron per day. At 5 copper per pound, that was about 50 copper daily. Barely survival money. Soon one of my villagers struck something. A blackened skeleton with rotted cloth. They pulled off 2 small metal fragments, probably pieces of ancient armor. The iron wasn't badly rusted, actually decent smelting material. Val left to work his own section. I overheard him talking to a neighbor, a man named Peter Cowdung, about me. Peter wondered if I might be a pioneer lord worth a bounty. Val shut that down fast. You ever seen a lord come alone to the desert? Even if he's noble-born, he's probably just a second son who couldn't make it. Besides, we're from the Falcon Kingdom too. You want that on your conscience? Peter backed off. He admitted that since the Falcon Kingdom's forces were wiped out 2 years ago, life had gotten harder for people like them. If a Falcon Kingdom lord could actually protect them, he'd welcome it. Val planned to introduce me to the other settlement leaders over dinner tonight. My fighting ability would strengthen their little alliance. As my villagers kept digging, something occurred to me. I pulled open my system map. My system map could zoom in and out like a video game mini-map. Zoomed out, it showed 10 kilometers, but missed details. Zoomed all the way in, it showed 100 meters around me. Every rock the size of a basketball was visible. And when I zoomed in on the ruins, I noticed faint white dots scattered underground. Iron scraps. My heart started pounding. Everyone else dug blind, hoping to get lucky. I could pinpoint exactly where the metal was buried. Stop digging there. Move over here, I told a group of villagers, pointing them toward a wall foundation. They didn't understand, but obeyed. Half a meter down, clang. Metal on metal. Their eyes went wide. Already? This shallow, they pulled out a rotted skeleton with 5 or 6 iron fragments on it. Then found a second body underneath with 3 or 4 more pieces, plus a broken sword section. Nearly a pound of iron from one spot. What would normally take all day? Megan Sandworm was thrilled, crediting my amazing luck for picking a hidden spot the dark creatures had used to bury extra corpses. For the other digging teams, I was smarter about it. Instead of pinpointing exact locations, I circled larger areas. One perfect guess is lucky. Repeated perfect guesses would be suspicious. I left Thomas in charge and headed toward the inner city to explore and hunt. The closer I got to the center, the fewer scavengers I saw. More dark creatures meant more danger, so only larger groups of 200 or 300 workers dared dig near the inner walls. Then, about 20 minutes in and a few hundred meters from the inner wall, I heard a low growl. A skeleton stepped out of a ruined building, green soul fire flickering in its skull, holding a thigh bone as a club. Dinner served. I gripped Lancer's old iron axe, about 3 feet long, head weighing over a pound. I saved my sword and arrows for things that mattered. For low-level skeletons, a sturdy axe was perfect. The skeleton charged. I swung overhead and smashed its skull apart. Soul fire gone. Energy 1. 2 more came stumbling out. 2 more swings. 2 more energy points. Out here in the sunlight, these things were pathetic, walking targets. In the death mist, they'd have some advantage. But out in the open, they were just bones waiting to be broken. I spent half an hour sweeping the area. 20 skeletons, 20 energy points. I dumped all 20 into Constitution, 2 upgrades at 10 points each. My stats now read: Constitution, Strong, Strength 4.2, Agility 1.9, Intelligence 1.8, Charisma 2.4. And a new line appeared: Bronze Knight, Rank 1, 3/10. 3 Constitution upgrades had taken me from a sickly 0.8 to a solid 4.2. What would take a normal person half a year of hard training? The gains were slowing down compared to that first boost, but still incredible. With Dead Knight Ruins as my personal grinding spot, I could hit 10.0 strength within a month. That might actually be faster than condensing my Battle Aura seed through normal cultivation. This ruin wasn't just a scrapyard. It was my personal treasure vault. I'd originally figured it would take 3 or 4 months to condense my Battle Aura seed. But at this rate, I could hit 10.0 strength in under a month through grinding alone, faster than the Aura method. And the stronger my body got, the faster I absorbed Aura too. Either way, I was winning. I pushed deeper toward the inner city, hunting more skeletons. Then a cold feeling crept up my spine, my sixth sense, sharpened by my intelligence stat. Something dangerous was nearby. I zoomed in on my map. A single red dot, hiding in the ruins about 100 meters out. I focused my eyes on it, and the system showed me its stats. Level 1 Dark Hound. Strength 3.3. Agility 2.0. Intelligence 0.3. Its agility was higher than mine, and I wasn't wearing my leather vest to stay inconspicuous. If that thing had ambushed me without warning, it could have been ugly. I put away the axe and drew my sword. Then I walked forward casually, pretending I hadn't noticed it. At 3 meters, the hound exploded from cover. Fast as a leopard, jaws wide open, dark red fangs bared. I leaned back hard and held my sword straight up. The beast impaled itself on the blade, its belly splitting open as it sailed over me. It crashed into a wall, guts dragging on the ground, and got back up. Turned around snarling at me with pupil-less red eyes, completely unbothered by having its insides hanging out. Still alive, it lunged again. I sidestepped and brought the sword down on its neck. The head went flying. Finally dead. Energy 1. 1 point. Same as a worthless skeleton. I was furious. That thing was 10 times harder to kill, and the payout was identical. No justice in this system. Before I could even cool down, 4 or 5 howls echoed from deeper in. My map lit up with fast-moving red dots. More hounds, coming my way. I ran. Sprinted for 5 full minutes before the dots stopped following. Lesson learned. Dark hounds hunt in packs. I'd be back, but not today. On my way back to the outer city, something on my map caught my eye. Among the usual white dots marking iron scraps, I spotted a faint green glow. Green meant something special, something valuable. I walked toward it without thinking and stepped right into another group's territory. 8 tough-looking men surrounded me with wooden clubs. Hey, nobody told you this is our turf? I looked them over. They're telling me now. So what? The biggest one shoved his club in my face. Get out, or you're dead. I grabbed the club with one hand. He tried to pull it back. It didn't budge. Then I yanked him forward and kicked him square in the stomach. He flew backward and hit the ground screaming. The others froze for a second. I didn't. Left hook dropped one, his jaw shifted sideways. Right shoulder check launched another, probably cracked a rib or 2. 3 down in seconds. I stepped through the gap and turned around, now with open space behind me instead of being surrounded. The remaining men cursed at me but didn't move forward. Their clubs stayed raised but their feet stayed planted. You just cursed at me? I took a step toward them. Stop. You win. Take the spot. We're done. The leader backpedaled, hands up. They knew they'd hit a wall. They grabbed their injured friends and called their villagers to leave. They even abandoned 2 or 3 pounds of iron scraps on the ground. Look at that. They dropped loot. I laughed, scooping up the scraps. Was it wrong to take their turf by force? This was the desert of death. If I'd still been weak, they'd have beaten me senseless without a second thought. Here, fists make the rules. Mine were bigger now, and somewhere under this street was a green dot on my map, something worth fighting for. Master Allen, we found a complete dagger. Megan Sandworm held it up with wide eyes. I took it, not a speck of rust, blade and handle perfectly preserved. This was the green dot from my map. My system confirmed it, a fine dagger with trace amounts of mithril, keeping it rust-free for 1,000 years. Sharpness 1.5, toughness 1.5, worth at least 5 silver coins. Val Ironhide had once found a single shiny iron fragment, a 5-centimeter broken sword tip, and sold it for a whole silver coin. He'd been so proud he changed his surname to Ironhide for good luck. Never found anything that good again. We worked until dusk. After dark, the ruins belonged to dark creatures and beasts. 2-legged humans without claws and fangs were their favorite prey. Val and I walked back together. He invited me to a gathering that evening at his camp, a meeting of the neighboring settlement leaders. Their little alliance kept them from being pushed around. Everyone was expected to bring food to future meetings, but tonight I was their guest. Back at the settlement, Caroline had things running smoothly. She'd supervised the women in harvesting 109 fire dates, collected them in a linen sack, and organized the houses so we all had clean places to sleep. I put her in charge of managing all the settlement's production, fire dates, and iron scraps. She could read, count, and had a sharp enough personality that nobody would dare skim from the inventory. Thomas would handle supervising the workers at Dead Knight Ruins. Between the two of them, I had the basics covered. We weighed the day's iron haul on a crude balance scale. Over 50 pounds, 4 times the normal daily amount. 250 copper coins worth. The villagers were stunned. Megan nearly fell over. Guess I'm just lucky, I shrugged. They bought it. Figured their new leader brought good fortune. Still not enough for what I had planned, but a strong start. That evening, I walked over to Val's camp. Around the fire sat the other settlement leaders, 4 of them. 2 men, 2 women. That surprised me. Surviving as a woman in the desert of death was hard enough. Leading a settlement? That took something special. Val introduced me with his usual loud enthusiasm. This is Alan Gale, the man who took out Lancer and his whole crew last night. He's one of us now. They studied me. I studied them right back. Nice to meet you all, I said. The first to stand was a burly man built like a bear. Name's Warren Holt. Glad you're joining us. Killing Lancer was impressive, but you look a bit skinny. Come train with me. I'll bulk you up so women can't take their eyes off you. Don't listen to Warren, said a scrawny man next to him, hair slicked back perfectly despite the desert conditions. He wore a patched silk outfit. Looked like he was trying very hard to appear noble. He spends all his money on food just to maintain those muscles. And women don't stare at him. They run away, afraid he'll crush them. Ask Leona Goldfish if you don't believe me. I'm Peter Cowdung, by the way. Warren fired back. At least I'm useful. Who saved your hide when Barlow's crew came looking for trouble? And you waste precious desert water washing your hair every day like some pretend aristocrat. Those two clearly enjoyed arguing. Then the blonde woman stood up. She didn't speak right away. Instead, she walked around the fire, leaned down, brushed her hair aside, and kissed me on the cheek. I'm Leona Goldfish. I heard you hung Lancer from a pole like a flag. Beautiful work. Come visit my settlement anytime. I'll make sure you're well taken care of. She winked and swayed back to her seat. I sat there stunned. I'd been ambushed by a blonde bombshell, and I hadn't seen it coming. The last one was a brown-haired woman who simply said, I'm Evelyn Bloom. Nice to meet you. Then she sat back down and avoided eye contact. Shy type. Val handed me a wooden cup of cheap rum, sour-smelling stuff. We toasted. Welcome to this godforsaken desert. May you have a bright future. I raised my cup. Thank you all for the warmth. Bright futures for everyone. The food was surprisingly good. Half a roasted rabbit, mushroom soup, some greens, black bread. Leona had brought the rabbit. I bit into a leg, and it was genuinely delicious. Better than anything I'd eaten since arriving in this world. This is amazing, Leona. Better than restaurant food in Sandgate City. She giggled and told me she cooked for clients at a dance hall in Sand Rat Town. I froze, reading between the lines. But Val leaned over and whispered that Leona only provided food service, nothing else. I relaxed. As the evening got lively, Warren suddenly remembered some gossip. Hey, anyone heard what happened to Seth Dogcrap today? Everyone knew Seth. His group had claimed a street near our area this month. Seth and his 8 guys got beaten up and lost their entire territory. To one person, some young hothead who just walked in and started swinging. The group erupted. One person beating 8? In the slums of Dead Night Ruins? It's not that nobody's tough enough, Peter said, but why would anyone that strong bother stealing iron scraps from a dump like this? It's iron, not gold. I kept my face perfectly still and took another bite of rabbit. Absolutely true, Warren said, patting his belly to show the size of the boot print. I saw Seth limping, couldn't walk on his own. One of his guys had a face swollen like a loaf of bread. Another had 2 broken ribs. Everyone shuddered. Not because they hadn't seen violence before, but because doing that kind of damage with bare hands meant serious power. I sat there feeling awkward. Because that vicious thug was definitely me. Val and Peter started worrying. Seth's territory was close to theirs. If some maniac was grabbing turf nearby, they could be next. Val suggested having Warren stand guard tomorrow to try scaring the attacker off, and if that didn't work, surrender immediately. I couldn't take it anymore. Guys, that thug was me. Dead silence. You're joking, Peter said flatly. 8 men, all bigger than average villagers. Carried wooden clubs. I dropped 3, the rest gave up. The details matched perfectly. No more doubt. They all stared at me with burning eyes. Not angry, not judgmental. Excited. Nobody even asked why I did it. This was the desert of death. Big fists equal justice. Warren wanted to know how someone my size could hit that hard. I rolled up my sleeve and showed them my new biceps. I'm lean, but it's all muscle. Plus, I had years of combat training. Combat training? Are you a noble's son? Leona leaned forward, curious. Everyone was watching me closely now. Val looked nervous. A Falcon Kingdom noble identity could be dangerous here. I'd planned for this moment. I needed a cover story they'd believe and sympathize with. So I let my smile fade, looked up at the stars, and sighed. I'm not noble-born. I'm just a commoner. The reason I have these skills, and the reason I ended up in this desert. It all started with a beautiful woman. Their eyes lit up. They could smell a dramatic love story coming. I gave them one. I told them about a woman who called me the most handsome man alive, who I gave my whole heart to, who taught me everything. Well, her guards taught me fighting and archery. She gave me my silk clothes, my horse. I loved her completely. Then she said the same sweet words to another man. The campfire crackled in the silence. Leona's eyes turned red. Evelyn kept glancing at me with pity. Val clapped my shoulder. Forget her, brother. If she hurt you, she never loved you. Leona disagreed. She probably did love you. You should have fought harder for her. I tried, I said. But her family forced me out, threatened my life. I had no choice but to flee to the desert of death. A noble family did this? Was she from an earl's house? They were piecing it together. Commoner boy falls for noble lady, gets crushed by the class divide. Yes, an earl's family, I nodded. She was wonderful to me. Everything I owned came from her. Leona sighed. An earl's family. A commoner can't fight that. You were right to run. It wasn't her parents who opposed us, I said quietly. Her siblings then? No. It was her husband. The earl himself. Every single person choked on their rum. They stared at me in stunned silence, mouths hanging open. The tragic young lover they'd been pitying had just revealed he'd been having an affair with a married countess. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm over it now. Time to move on and build a life here. They bought the whole story. My fake backstory. Heartbroken commoner who fell for a married countess and got chased into the desert was ridiculous enough to be believable. Nobody invents something that embarrassing. Leona invited me back to her camp for more rum and warmth. I knew exactly what she meant, but it was only my second day here. I needed to focus. I turned her down. Val couldn't believe it. You fool. She doesn't offer that to just anyone. Next time, Val. That night, I stood alone in the fire date orchard and spent my 10 energy points upgrading the well's water output. Daily production jumped from 0.9 cubic meters to 2.9, over 3 times what it was. Our 52 people needed roughly 1,200 liters daily for drinking, cooking, watering the trees, and livestock. The old well barely covered half of that, which is why villagers had been drinking muddy water. Now we had almost 3,000 liters, more than double what we needed. The extra water meant I could plant more fire date trees once I bought soil. I went back to the house like nothing happened. Caroline and Thomas were waiting by the door with a torch. Loyal servants, both of them. Thomas left for his room. Caroline stayed. She slept in the outer room of my house for safety. She helped me wash up, then sniffed my linen shirt suspiciously. There's a woman's scent on this, Master Allen. Was tonight really just a gathering? It's nothing. One of the leaders is a woman, that's all. And since when do I explain myself to my maid? I just think you're young and should focus on building your territory. No good women in this desert anyway, she muttered, hanging up my shirt. The taming was progressing, but slowly. Next morning, I woke to shouting outside. Thomas came running from the orchard, grinning ear to ear. Master Allen, a miracle. The well water has multiplied overnight. Several times more than before. I put on my best surprised face and followed him to look. Well, I guess my luck really is something. This isn't luck, my lord. The gods favor you. Thomas was beaming. The villagers' eyes had changed. Yesterday they feared me. Today there was respect. The iron hall had quadrupled under my guidance, and now the water had mysteriously multiplied. Both happened right after I arrived. Perhaps the gods sent me to lead this settlement to something better, I said, playing the part. Speaking of which, from today, this place is no longer called Joe's Settlement. Its new name is Babylon. Babylon. One of the ancient wonders of my previous world. If I could build something great in this wasteland, it truly would be a miracle. And with my system, I had the tools to make it happen. After washing up and one more punishment session with Caroline, I grabbed some bread and headed to Dead Night Ruins. Val had sent someone earlier, but I told them to go ahead. When I arrived, I found Val and Peter talking with worried faces. What's going on? Something about a territory being stolen. Not ours, Val said. The Nissan settlement on the next street got hit this morning. Lost their territory and over 20 villagers were taken. Val assured me our Iron Alliance. That's what they called our group of settlements, was strong enough that moral wouldn't bother us, especially now that I'd joined. But I wasn't worried about defense. I was planning offense. I set myself a daily schedule. Mornings, practice battle aura. Afternoons, grind skeletons for energy. And today's bonus objective, take Moral Street before sundown. I spent the morning cultivating, ate a quick lunch of bran bread and smoked meat, then headed out to hunt. I was more careful today, checking my map every few minutes after yesterday's Darkhound encounter. Over an hour and a half, I bagged 7 or 8 skeletons, slower than yesterday. I figured I'd cleared out the nearby ones, and they hadn't respawned yet. I'd need to rotate areas, like a shepherd moving between pastures. I pushed further along the inner wall and found fresh hunting grounds. By late afternoon, I'd earned 31 energy points, a third more than yesterday. I spent all 30 on Constitution. My stats now: Strength 5.0, Agility 2.2, Intelligence 1.9, Charisma 2.4. 5 times stronger than a normal person. I was confident I could punch a Darkhound to death now. Time to deal with Moral. I walked into his newly claimed street and found 4 big men pinning a ragged village woman to the ground, trying to pull up her dress. Her husband lay nearby, bleeding and begging them to stop. What a wonderful show, gentlemen. Performing outdoor theater in the ruins. How cultured. They turned and saw a skinny teenager clapping his hands. Their faces twisted into snarls. Get lost, kid. Before I lose my temper. No, please continue. I was enjoying the performance. They let the woman go and lined up facing me. These 4 were stronger than Seth's crew, all above 1.4 strength, with Moral himself at 1.7. Still, I was at 5.0. Which one of you is Moral Ponytail? I asked casually. I am. Who are you? And why should I let you leave alive? I'm Alan Gale. I'm from the next street over. I'm here to take this territory. You can leave on your own feet, or I can rearrange yours. Your choice. They'd never heard of me. Didn't matter. I wasn't from any big group, so they figured I was easy prey. Moral cracked his knuckles. Kid, you're dead. When I'm done beating you, I'm going to do things to that pretty face of yours that'll make sure you never walk again. Moral told his boys to rush me. 4 against 1. Big mistake. My agility was at 2.2 now. I moved like a rabbit, closing the gap before they could react. One full-force kick to Moral's chest sent him flying 2 meters. He hit the ground and went limp, out cold. His ribs cracked on impact. Yesterday with Seth's crew, I'd held back. No real grudge. But these animals had been trying to assault a village woman right in the open, and Moral had threatened to do the same to me. That crossed every line I had. Left hook to the next guy's face. Bone cracked, he dropped like a log. I caught him with a right hook before he even hit the ground. Unconscious before landing. The last 2 tried to run. I pulled my punches slightly, didn't want to kill anyone, but still planted a fist on each of their faces. They went down hard, too dizzy to stand. 5 seconds. For men on the ground. I slapped Moral awake. He woke up swinging curses. I slapped him again, and again, and again until teeth started falling out of his mouth mixed with blood. I'm sorry. Please stop. I'll never do it again. He was sobbing, face swollen beyond recognition. Get out. Take your garbage with you. If I ever see you near here again, I'll finish the job. He scrambled up, kicked his 2 men who were playing dead, dragged the unconscious one, and they all limped away as fast as broken ribs would allow. Val and Peter appeared around the corner moments later, drawn by the screaming. Alan, what happened? Beat up Moral's crew. This street's mine now. They stared at me. You grabbed another territory? Yesterday it was Seth, today Moral. You're conquering faster than the kingdom's army. Just a sore hand. I shrugged. The 21 villagers Moral had stolen from the Nissan settlement were huddled nearby, terrified. I gave them a choice. Go back to Nissan or stay with me. Every single one chose to stay. Val explained it simply. Nissan couldn't protect them, but I clearly could. People follow strength. Val worried about water. My old well could barely support the people I already had. I told him about the miracle. The water had multiplied overnight, rising from 1 meter to over 3. He and Peter followed me home to see for themselves. When they looked down the well and saw 2 meters of water still sitting there after a full day's use, they both whispered, "Miracle," and stared at me with envy. My settlement, now called Babylon, had gone from 49 people to over 70 in 2 days. 3 streets of scavenging territory. A well producing triple its old output. and my stats were climbing fast. Val reminded me to get up early tomorrow. We were heading to Sand Rat Town to sell our iron and fire dates. No problem, Val. After Val and Peter left, we counted the day's haul. My villagers were buzzing. 110 kilograms of iron scraps total, including what Moral's crew had abandoned in their rush to escape, plus 108 fire dates. My settlement's output was now 8 or 9 times what it used to be under Lancer. Sand Rat Town was the only trading post within 50 miles, about 20 kilometers from Babylon. In my old world, that's a quick drive. Here, it took our group 3 hours on foot. We traveled as a convoy, 2 carts, a dozen villagers carrying goods on their backs, and 20-odd fighters for protection. Over 40 people total. Lurking eyes watched us from the dunes, but nobody attacked a group that size. When the first patch of green appeared on the horizon, my jaw dropped. Sand Rat Town had a small freshwater lake, fire date orchards, and actual wheat fields. Real farmland in the desert. Compared to this, Babylon was a beggar's den. I immediately started thinking about how to take this place someday. The town was run by a man named Harris Sandrat, a bronze knight, greedy, cruel, and violent. He'd slaughtered at least 10 settlements that disobeyed him. We knew this before we arrived, but seeing it was different. For the last mile approaching town, wooden poles lined both sides of the road, each one holding a corpse. Over 100 bodies, men, women, children, some no older than 5 or 6. Some were fresh, less than a week old. Val's group walked faster, eyes forward. They'd seen it before. I stared at those small bodies and felt my stomach turn with rage. At the gate, guards in worn leather armor eyed every passing group like hungry wolves, stopping anyone with decent cargo to steal a share. Val quickly handed over 20 fire dates as a bribe, and they waved us through. Filthy parasites, Warren spat once we were clear. Quiet, Val hissed. 20 dates for safe passage is a bargain. The town was small but bustling. Hundreds of settlements traded here, keeping shops, taverns, and brothels busy. Leona worked here 3 days a week selling food. We headed to Roscoe's trading post, our regular buyer. The yard was packed with ragged villagers and piles of goods. 2 lines, a short one for partner settlements, that delivered at least 500 kilograms weekly with 300-plus people, and a long one for everyone else. Partners got faster service and a bonus copper coin per 10 kilograms. We stood in the long line. Half an hour of waiting while the partner line moved in minutes. I calculated the difference. My haul alone lost about 10 copper coins to the cheaper rate. That stung. I asked Val if the partnership requirements could be lowered. He didn't think so. You needed the population to produce that much iron. When our turn finally came, the manager, a man named Jock, recognized Val and gave him a hard time for being slow. Then each alliance member's goods were weighed, about 100 kilograms of iron and 600 or 700 fire dates each. Typical numbers. Then Jock noticed my cart hadn't been weighed yet. Val introduced me as the new owner of Joe's settlement. Jock looked me over skeptically, asked what happened to Lancer, and scoffed when told I'd handled it alone. He assumed I'd used tricks, not fists, plenty of sneaky killers in the desert. His workers weighed my iron. 210 kilograms. Jock's face darkened. He shouted at his workers for being incompetent. Joe's old settlement had never produced more than 100 kilos in a week. They insisted they'd weighed it twice. Jock walked over to check the scale himself. The weight was correct, but instead of being impressed, his expression turned cold. Jock wanted to inspect my bags, thought I might be padding them with rocks. 210 kilograms from a tiny settlement like mine was unheard of. Go ahead, I said calmly. They dumped all 4 sacks. Pure iron scraps, not a single stone. The whole yard went quiet. Jock relaxed and apologized, said he was just doing his job. Then I pulled out the mithril dagger. His eyes lit up. We haggled. I started at 10 silver, he started at 3. We settled on 5. He gave me a wooden token to collect payment inside. I asked about becoming a partner merchant to get the faster line and better prices. Jock shook his head. My settlement was too small, and it wasn't his decision anyway. I need to talk to the owner, a man named Roscoe. He warned me not to try. Roscoe had a nasty temper and had thrown out plenty of people who'd asked for special treatment. Val and the others were more interested in my dagger windfall. 5 silver coins and 1 find. They jokingly suggested I change my name to Alan Dagger or Alan Silver. We went inside a large wooden building to collect our money. For guards stood watch over the cash operation. "It's Tessa," Warren suddenly gasped, eyes practically glowing. Behind the counter sat a girl of about 15 or 16, golden princess curls, smooth pale skin, sapphire blue eyes, wearing a silk dress that belonged in a noble's parlor, not a desert trading post. She was reading a book, completely absorbed. "That's Tessa, Roscoe's daughter," Warren whispered reverently. So Warren had a crush. I could see why. She looked like a phoenix in a chicken coop. But Val pulled Warren back to reality fast. Roscoe had publicly announced his daughter would marry into kingdom nobility. She wasn't staying in the desert. Even Harrisandrat, the bronze knight who ruled this town, had been rejected. Warren deflated. "I was just admiring, that's all." When my turn came, the clerk needed silver coins and called Tessa over. She checked my token, counted out 31 silver coins, and the clerk added some copper on top. As I turned to leave, I noticed the book she was reading, some kind of personal memoir. I stopped. "Miss Tessa, that book, the autobiography of the Black Widow lady, isn't really suitable for a beautiful young lady like yourself." As I turned to leave, I noticed the book Tessa was reading, a memoir by a noblewoman called the Black Widow lady. I stopped myself and spoke up. "Miss Tessa, that book isn't really suitable for someone as young and beautiful as you." She frowned at first. Who was this stranger telling her what to read? But when she looked up and saw my face, the annoyance faded. My 2.4 charisma was doing its job. I explained that the Black Widow lady had been married 5 times, divorced every time, and spent her later years bitter and alone. While the book championed female independence, it was ultimately the story of a woman who failed at love. Reading it at Tessa's age could plant seeds of cynicism in a heart that should still be full of hope. "You've read this book?" She was intrigued. "What should I read instead?" I rattled off several romantic adventure novels, princess stories, tales of beautiful lands, and true love. The kind of books a girl her age would enjoy. She wrote down every title carefully. Then she gave me a funny look. "These are all girls' books. Do you normally read love stories?" I needed to save face fast. "My favorites are books about iron-willed knights and conquerors. But a man who only knows toughness is incomplete. I read some romance to develop a gentler heart, because someday I hope to share a genuine love with someone special." I let my eyes drift into a wistful, dreamy look. She stared at me, caught off guard. Then I bowed politely. "Forgive me for interrupting your reading, Mississippi. I couldn't bear to see such a lovely person misled. I should go now." I turned and walked away. 3, 2, 1. Wait. Hook, line, and sinker. She asked my name. I told her, Alan Gale. She repeated it softly, noticed my noble manners, and asked why someone with a noble surname was living in the desert of death. I shook my head with just the right amount of sadness. "That's all in the past, Mississippi. I'm just the leader of a tiny settlement now." Her expression softened. She could see the picture, a talented, well-bred young nobleman fallen from grace, scraping by in the wasteland. "Something tragic must have happened. If you ever need help, you can come find me. I'll be in Sandrat Town for another 6 months." That was exactly what I'd been angling for. But I kept my face hesitant, as if embarrassed to ask for anything. She noticed. "You do need something, don't you? Just tell me." I took a deep breath and explained, with great apparent reluctance, that I wanted to become a partner merchant with her father's trading post. My settlement only had 70 people, far below the 300-person requirement. But I could guarantee the weekly iron quota. I was going to ask your father directly, but he wasn't here, and I lost my nerve. Tessa relaxed. "Oh, is that all? Good thing my father isn't here. He'd have thrown you out." "Let me just add you to the list." She told the clerk to register me. He protested. The boss needed to approve it, and my numbers didn't qualify. Tessa's sweet face turned sharp. "Am I not the boss's daughter? It's just a registration. Alan promised he can deliver the iron. If he can't, just don't pay the bonus." The clerk caved and pulled out the partnership ledger and a contract. Tessa handed me the signed partnership contract, sheepskin with her name and thumbprint. Babylon Settlement was now officially a partner merchant with Roscoe's trading post. "Thank you, Miss Tessa. Your kindness means more than you know. Just keep working hard, Alan. Things will get better," she smiled, genuinely pleased with herself for helping a struggling young man. Then Val grabbed my arm. "Alan, move. Roscoe's coming back." I said a quick goodbye and headed for the door. Coming straight at us was a barrel-chested man with a killer's face, flanked by 4 or 5 armed guards in leather armor with swords at their hips. The most dangerous-looking crew I'd seen since arriving in the desert. "That's Roscoe," Val whispered. I kept walking, face blank, pace quick. One question did cross my mind. How did a man who looked like a crime boss produce such a sweet daughter? Once we were clear, Val let out a huge breath. "What were you doing talking to her?" "Roscoe guards that girl like a dragon guards gold. Anyone who gets close gets thrown out. Or worse." Warren looked at me like a betrayed puppy. I showed them the contract and explained I'd only asked Tessa for a business partnership, nothing more. "She actually gave it to you?" "How?" They couldn't believe it. "She's kind. I just told her about how hard life is at my settlement, and she helped." Warren's jealousy evaporated instantly. "Think I should try too? If you want Roscoe to snap your neck, go right ahead," Val said flatly. We split up for an hour of personal time. Warren and Evelyn went to buy black bread. Peter headed for the tavern. Val suspected he was actually sneaking off to the dance hall again, despite swearing to his wife he'd stopped. Val came with me to buy black soil. Back at the trading post, things weren't so calm. Roscoe walked in, saw his daughter's face, and his thuggish scowl melted into a doting smile. "Tessa, darling, tired? Thank you for watching the business." Then his clerk whispered what had happened. Roscoe's face went from loving father to murderous in a heartbeat. He interrogated Tessa. Was this person a classmate from her academy in Red Wolf City? "No, we just met today," she admitted, unable to lie under his glare. "Bring that boy back to me." Now, Roscoe snarled at his men. "Father, you know," Tessa jumped between them, suddenly fierce. The quiet bookworm was gone. She insisted I hadn't deceived her and that she'd made the decision freely. Roscoe didn't care about the contract itself. Partnerships were small change to him. What infuriated him was that someone had dared approach his precious daughter. When he tried to push past her, Tessa played her trump card. "If you chase him down, I'm not going to the kingdom in 6 months. I'll stay in this desert forever." Roscoe's raised hand froze. His iron will crumbled against his daughter's tears. The most feared merchant in the region, a man who answered to Red Wolf City's power brokers, surrendered to a 15-year-old girl's quivering chin. "Fine. I won't go after him." "Happy now? He didn't trick me," Tessa insisted, eyes glistening. All right, father was wrong. Please stop crying, darling." His men turned away. Nobody wanted to witness their terrifying boss groveling. "I want books," Tessa sniffled. "I want Princess Adela's Adventures, Wonders of the Wasteland, and Princess Alice's Journey to the Center of the Earth," the exact titles I'd recommended. Even from a mile away, my hooks were still working. We walked into the only soil shop in Sandrat Town, a monopoly backed by Harris Sandrat himself. Inside, a few settlement people were arguing with the manager, a red-faced man named Courtney. Bad news. Black soil had jumped from 10 to 13 copper per kilogram. Courtney blamed dangerous trade routes and rising costs. Whether that was true, who knew? Desert trade routes were never safe. His attitude was pure, take it or leave it. He also pointed to a pile of yellowish-brown dirt in the corner. That was a batch of cheap soil, only 3 copper per pound, made by mixing real black soil with contaminated desert sand. Courtney had cooked it up to scam people, but word spread fast after buyers discovered nothing would grow in it. He'd been punished by his boss and docked 3 months' pay. Now he was stuck with over 1,000 kilograms of useless dirt nobody would touch. I almost walked past it. Then my system scanned both piles. The real black soil, medium fertility, moderate water loss. 1 energy point per cubic meter to enhance. Normal. The mixed dirt, low fertility due to 2/3 contaminated yellow soil mixed in. But, and this was the key, it could also be enhanced for just 1 energy point per cubic meter. Same cost as the pure stuff. My brain nearly short-circuited. Pure desert sand needed 1 energy point just to remove the toxic contamination, then more to add fertility. But mixing contaminated sand with black soil somehow bypassed the purification step entirely. 1 point turned the cheap mix into perfectly usable farmland. I spent 1 energy point to test it. The system confirmed. The garbage dirt transformed into medium fertility black soil, identical to the expensive stuff. This meant every kilogram of real black soil I bought could be stretched to cover 3 times the area. I'd save a fortune in gold and energy. Val tried to warn me off the yellow dirt, thinking I was about to get scammed like everyone else. I told him loudly that I wanted it for growing vegetables, not fire dates. Courtney's eyes lit up like lanterns. He'd been desperate to unload that pile for months. I made him a deal. I'd buy all his leftover yellow dirt, over 1,000 kilograms, if he'd also sell me 300 kilograms of real black soil at the original 10 copper price instead of the inflated 13. Courtney hesitated. Something felt off to him, but the yellow dirt was his personal loss, while the black soil belonged to his boss. Discounting the boss's product to clear his own inventory? He bit. Deal. But you take every last kilogram of yellow dirt. Done. Val stood there stunned. From his perspective, I'd just spent good money on a mountain of worthless dirt. But what he didn't know was that I'd turned a rip-off into the best bargain in the desert of death. Courtney rushed to weigh everything before I could change my mind. Final tally, 1,328 kilograms of yellow dirt at 3 copper per pound, 300 kilograms of real black soil at the original 10 copper rate, plus 4 5-year-old fire date saplings at 25 silver each. Total cost, 1 gold coin, 69 silver, and 60 copper. That wiped out nearly all the money I'd brought from the Gale Barony. I'd given Lilia 2 gold for her academy, so I only had 2 gold to start with. The saplings were disappointing. I'd wanted full-grown trees that produced daily, but mature fire date trees were never sold. They were money-printing machines. The 5-year ones I bought were barely person height, producing only a few fruits. I'd have to wait years for real output. That didn't fit my timeline at all. Val, where can I get full-sized fire date trees? He looked at me like I was crazy. You already bought 4 saplings plus mountains of dirt. Even with your miracle well, there are limits. He tried convincing me that iron scavenging was the real career in the desert. I could tell from his face that his life ambition was picking up scraps until he died. Not mine. He finally gave me a real answer. Wildfire date trees grew in unclaimed oases scattered across the desert, places held by wild animals, magical beasts, or foreign tribes. Dangerous, but free for the taking if you were strong enough. Unclaimed? That's my favorite kind. Val suggested I ask Leona for help. Hunters who frequented her establishment at the dance hall camp knew where these wild oases were. The dance hall camp was Sand Rat Town's entertainment district. Taverns, brothels, everything clustered behind wooden fences at the edge of town. All under Harris Sandrat's control, naturally. The women kept 20%, Harris took 80%. Val told me Leona's story on the way. Her husband had been a settlement leader. During a dark creature surge, all 30-odd men in their settlement were killed. The surviving widows tried scavenging iron but were too weak and got bullied constantly. Some turned to the only work that paid better. When things got bad, men refusing to pay, robbing the women, they begged Leona for help. She went to Harris Sandrat personally to negotiate protection. She'd hidden a sharp iron fragment on her body, ready to kill herself if Harris tried anything. But Harris was smart enough to see the business opportunity. He agreed to an 80-20 split, and the dance hall camp was born. I respected Leona's courage. She'd walked into a monster's den prepared to die, and walked out with a deal. I entered the camp and headed straight for the busiest courtyard in the center, Leona's place. Walking into Leona's courtyard was an experience. Women in thin clothes swarmed me the moment I stepped through the gate, pressing against me, hands wandering everywhere. One stuffed my arm between her chest, another started squeezing my torso, and a third was heading somewhere I definitely needed to protect. "What are you doing?" Leona's voice cut through the chaos. The women scattered like startled birds. She was wearing a linen dress with an apron and a cloth band in her hair, a simple country-made look. On a blonde, blue-eyed woman with her figure, it was devastating. She led me into her kitchen, a spacious room with 2 stoves going, filling the air with the smell of stewed meat. She poured me water and sat me down. "I thought a proper nobleman like you would never visit a place like this," she said, dripping with fake hurt. I got straight to the point. "Leona, I need your help finding wildfire date trees growing in unclaimed oases," she frowned. That was dangerous territory, literally. Wild oases were controlled by beasts and magical creatures. "What's in it for me?" She leaned forward until our faces were inches apart. "Everything in the desert has a price, Alan." I offered money. She said she didn't need it. I asked what she wanted. She pulled back suddenly and smiled. "I haven't decided yet. I'll tell you when I figure it out. Playing hard to get. 2 could play that game. If it threatens my life. Or my dignity. I might say no." She rolled her eyes, went to the stove, and came back with a bowl of rabbit stew, stolen from the portion meant for Harris Sandrat's guard captain. He's awful. He won't notice a little missing. The stew was delicious. I was halfway through when she came back with actual information. That was fast. Am I not capable? She asked with a coy smile. Very capable, I said, meaning it in every way. A hunter who frequented her place knew of 3 wild oases with fire date trees. 1 southeast of our settlements, 2 to the southwest. All dangerous. Wild animals, sometimes magical beasts. I memorized the locations and said goodbye. On my way out, I nearly collided with Peter Cowdung stepping out of the same courtyard. I thought you were at the tavern. His face turned red. The tavern. Ran out of rum. So I came here. Please don't tell anyone. Your secret's safe. Peter. We met up with Val at the rendezvous point. He'd bought Babylon's supplies. Black bread, basic necessities. We made it home by dusk. Today's iron haul without my guidance was only about 40 kilograms, way down from yesterday's numbers. Without me pinpointing the richest spots on my map, the villagers were back to digging blind. Next morning, after Caroline walked out rubbing her backside with a red face, daily punishment continuing as scheduled, I gathered 10 strong villagers and headed to the fire date orchard. I picked a new planting spot 200 meters from the well. In my long-term plan, that well was going to overflow into a lake someday, so I needed to leave space. Land was the one thing the desert of death had plenty of. I gave the digging and soil-filling instructions to the crew, left Caroline in charge, and took the rest of the iron digging team to Dead Night Ruins. After setting up their work zones and leaving Thomas to manage, I mounted my horse and rode southeast. Leona's hunter contact had said the southeast oasis was closest and safest. About an hour's ride through open desert, something I'd never dare without my system map to keep me from getting lost in the endless sand. The oasis appeared ahead, bigger than Sandrat Town, all the green clustered around a pond about 100 square meters. Beautiful and completely unclaimed by humans. People stuck to the dried riverbeds where the ground was hard and navigation was simple. Out here in the open sand, you'd get lost and die without a map like mine. The downside, my map showed over 20 large animals inside. 6 dots clustered together. That had to be the wolf pack the hunter mentioned. I crept to 100 meters and checked their stats. Desert Wolf Alpha, Strength 1.4, Agility 1.6, Intelligence 0.6. The regular wolves were weaker, Strength 1.1, Agility 1.3. There were also desert foxes and oversized sand rats. Nothing I couldn't handle at my current level. Then I spotted what I came for. 1 massive fire date tree, fully mature, at least 10 meters tall, as big as the old trees back in Babylon. I kept exploring carefully and found 4 more. 2 fully grown giants and 3 smaller ones at roughly 1, 3, and 5 years old. 5 trees total, way beyond my expectations. The small ones had survived because hunters were too scared of the wolves to linger. The big ones were impossible to dig up quickly with predators lurking nearby. I dug up the 2 smallest saplings myself, worth at least 15 silver coins combined, found in one quick trip. That's more than Val's entire alliance earned in a week of backbreaking iron work. The 3 larger trees needed manpower, so I headed back. I'd deal with the wolves when I returned with people. Killing them now would leave blood scent that might attract magical beasts, and I wasn't ready for those yet. Val couldn't believe I'd already scouted the oasis. When I showed him the 2 saplings, his jaw dropped. Fine, you've convinced me. I'll come along. Just bring a cart, Val. I'll use my own people. I pulled 20 villagers, loaded 2 carts, and an hour later we were on the sand dune overlooking the oasis. I strapped on my leather armor, grabbed my longbow, and told everyone to wait. Alan, this is crazy. Let us help. That's a whole wolf pack, Val pleaded. Just a few wolves, I said, and walked toward the green. The wolves knew I was coming. They'd smelled me on my first visit. This time I made no effort to hide. I banged on trees to draw them out. My map showed them fanning into a semicircle. 2 on my left, 2 on my right, 3 ahead including the alpha. 7 total. I raised my longbow and put an arrow through the bushes. A yelp, 1 hit. The alpha snarled and gave the signal. 5 wolves burst from the trees, fangs bared, charging from 3 directions. I tossed the bow aside and raised my fists. 500 meters back, Val and the others watched in horror. 5 wolves at once. Can he handle that? The first wolf leaped at my throat. My agility was 2.2, faster than any of them. My right hook connected with its skull before its jaws reached me. Bone cracked. The wolf flew sideways and hit the ground twitching. 2 more from the flanks. I stepped forward, turned, and swung left-right. 2 punches, 2 wolves down. 1 hit each was all it took. Then came the alpha, sneaking up behind me while I dealt with the others. Smarter than its pack, waiting for my back to turn. I'd left it open on purpose. Couldn't let the alpha escape and come back for revenge later. It lunged for my neck. I sidestepped, grabbed its tail, and yanked it backward into my right fist. The punch landed solid, but the alpha was tougher than the others. Bigger, stronger. It shook off the hit and tried to bolt. I kicked it in the rear. It stumbled and fell. Before it could stand, I pinned its head and hammered 3 punches into its skull. It went limp. 6 wolves down. No energy points, though, confirming my theory that only dark creatures and magical beasts give energy. Regular animals don't count. I waved the others forward. Val and Peter arrived with the carts, staring at 6 dead wolves scattered around me. You killed them with your fists? I told you. I'm trained. Now let's move. We don't have much time. They were looking at me like I was some kind of primitive monster. But in a world with superhuman knights, my strength was impressive but not impossible to explain. A bronze knight starts at 10.0 strength. I was only at 5.0. Unusual for my age, but not lab experiment territory. We found the 3 remaining fire date trees and dug them up. 2 fully mature giants worth at least 2 gold coins combined if sold, plus a 5-year sapling. Val warned me that selling big trees was risky. Buyers in this desert might just rob me instead of paying. I told him I was keeping them all. The villagers carried the wolf carcasses, free meat, and we loaded the trees onto the carts. 5 fire date trees in one trip, plus 2 small saplings from my morning visit. My orchard was about to expand dramatically. Let's go. Trees secured, wolves loaded, we headed home. We took a roundabout path home to avoid being seen near Dead Knight ruins. No need to advertise that I was hauling valuable trees. A few fire dates might not attract attention, but 9 trees would make people greedy. Master Allen, you brought back even more trees? And they're huge. Caroline jumped up from her shady spot by the orchard wall, eyes sparkling. She'd been dutifully supervising the villagers all day. Found them in the wild. Killed 6 wolves to get them. Wolves? Are you hurt? She rushed over, checking me for injuries. That warmed my heart. Money-hungry as she was, she clearly cared more about me than the trees. Once satisfied I was fine, she immediately pivoted. Then you should go find more. If we planted hundreds, we'd earn more than the entire Gale barony. This woman's appetite was bigger than mine. Hundreds of trees. Unbelievable. The soil mixing was going well. Caroline reported that the yellow dirt was laid out as planned, and workers were blending the black soil in at a 2-to-1 ratio. Everything would be finished by tomorrow evening. We planted all 9 trees. The 7 smaller saplings only needed about 100 kilograms of soil each. The remaining 600 kilograms covered 2 square meters for the 2 big trees. Then my system flagged a problem. One of the mature trees was losing vitality. It would die within a month without intervention. That explained why nobody bothered stealing fire date trees from small settlements. A 50% transplant survival rate made it a losing bet. 1 energy point to stabilize it. Done. The tree's status returned to normal. My system made me the only person in this desert who could transplant mature fire dates with a 100% success rate. After planting, I took my 20 workers back to Dead Knight ruins for the afternoon iron shift, then squeezed in another skeleton hunting session. About a dozen kills. That night, I upgraded the well twice, 10 energy points each. Daily output jumped to 4.9 cubic meters. Lifespan extended to 5 years. The nearly depleted warning finally disappeared. Next morning, I was woken by excited shouting. Again, the villagers had discovered the water miracle for the second time. Thomas burst in grinning. The water increased again. I faked surprise, went to look, pretended to be amazed. Then I pulled Thomas aside. This is a blessing, but we need to keep it secret. If other settlements hear about it, we'll have problems. And Thomas, if this happens again, please don't wake me up. I'd like to sleep in. Yes, master. After breakfast, I gave Caroline her daily punishment, waves and all, and headed to the ruins. First thing I did was deliver half a wolf carcass each to Val and Peter. Alan, This is too much. They stared at the huge chunks of meat. You earned it. I'll need your help again in the future. I'm sending smaller portions to Warren and the others too. Meeting you is the luckiest thing that's happened to us in years, Val said, beaming. Half a wolf would feed his people for a month. Over the next 5 days, I stuck to a routine: morning aura cultivation, afternoon skeleton grinding, evenings upgrading the well and trees. My stats climbed steadily: strength 6.8, agility 2.5, intelligence 2.0. The Fire Date Orchard was now producing 150 fruits daily, giving me 15 passive energy points on top of the 25 I earned from hunting. Bronze Knight rank, 5 out of 10. Time to deal with those dark hounds that had been blocking my access to the Death Mist. 7 of them came running when I made some noise near the inner city. I lured them into a narrow alley where they could only come at me from the front. My axe work had improved dramatically: 2 swings, 2 split skulls, and the rest charged in one by one like idiots. Low-level dark creatures have terrible intelligence. Within a minute, 7 dead hounds lay at my feet. Then I walked straight into the Black Death Mist. Energy 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, streaming in like a waterfall. In 3 minutes, I'd gained over 50 points. I kept going: 70, 100, 130, 200. I was drunk on it. This was a treasure vault. Then something terrible happened. Deep inside the fortress, something woke up. I heard war horses screaming, followed by an eruption of howls from every dark creature in the ruins. My map lit up like a kicked anthill, hundreds of red dots surging toward the outer walls. Toward me. I checked the approaching creatures. Level 2 ghouls, strength 7.0. Level 3 corpse serpents, strength 13. Things that would tear me apart. I ran. Flat out sprinted for over 10 minutes before the creatures stopped pursuing. They didn't like sunlight and eventually retreated. My hands were shaking, but my system panel told a happy story: 230 energy points from that one binge. 10 days worth of grinding in 3 minutes. I dumped 200 points into Constitution. Strength jumped to 8.2, agility to 2.7, getting close to superhuman territory. The lesson was clear. I couldn't gorge on Death Mist all at once. Something deep inside the ruins had sensed me draining it. I need to take smaller sips going forward. I was heading back when I heard a woman screaming. My map showed a human surrounded by several dark creature dots a few hundred meters away. The dark creature surge I triggered must have pushed hounds into areas where people were working. I couldn't ignore it. This was my fault. I sprinted over and found 7 or 8 dark hounds cornering a woman on top of a broken wall about 2 meters high. The hounds couldn't climb, but she was terrified, curled up throwing rocks at them with shaking hands. Then I recognized her. It was Evelyn Bloom. Evelyn, run. There are dark hounds everywhere. She waved frantically, trying to shoo me away. She didn't know what I could do. I'd barely interacted with Evelyn since our first meeting. Val had warned me to keep my distance. Not because of her, but because of her husband, a man named Dandy, who worked in Red Wolf City with some gang. He was insanely jealous. Anyone who got close to Evelyn got accused of having an affair with her. He'd even suspected Val and the others. The only reason the Alliance hadn't kicked Evelyn out was respect for her father. Evelyn herself was perfectly nice, just painfully shy. I rolled up my sleeves. Just a few hounds. Give me a minute. I grabbed my axe and walked toward them. 8 dark hounds turned away from the wall and charged me instead, thrilled to find easier prey. Evelyn nearly fell off the wall screaming at me to be careful. Then she went silent. I swung the axe in wide arcs, splitting skulls one after another. Each hound that lunged got 1 clean hit. Under a minute, all 8 lay dead at my feet. Evelyn stared at me like I'd performed a magic trick. You okay up there? I called up. She blinked. I can't get down. The wall was thin and she'd been crouching to keep balance. Climbing up in panic was one thing. Getting down gracefully was another. You can lower yourself down and I'll catch you, I offered, keeping my tone casual. I didn't want any misunderstandings, not with her jealous husband lurking somewhere. She turned around, gripped the wall's edge, and tried to ease herself down. Immediately lost her balance. She screamed as she fell, straight into my arms. I caught her easily. She opened her eyes to find my face inches from hers. You all right? Her face went from white to bright red in a heartbeat. Why, yes. Thank you, Alan. I set her down quickly. My hands had landed in places that confirmed what her conservative clothing tried to hide. Evelyn had a figure that rivaled anyone's. She was the farm girl type, modest, hardworking, no vanity. If Leona was a wild cat, Evelyn was a nun. Completely different energy. She couldn't look me in the eye afterward. I asked why she'd been so close to the inner city. That was dangerous territory. Only large groups worked this deep. Dandy chose this spot last month. He said there was more iron here and insisted I bring people to dig. That told me everything. Her husband didn't love her. He just owned her. He put her in danger for a few extra copper coins, then got jealous if any man spoke to her. Before I could respond, we heard voices calling her name. Val and Warren were searching for her. The dark creature surge I'd accidentally triggered had sent everyone scrambling, and Evelyn had gone missing. Val and the others came running. 30 or 40 people with makeshift weapons, a rescue party. They saw the 8 dead hounds and couldn't believe it. Warren grabbed my arm and started feeling my muscles. Your forearm is half the size of mine. How are you killing these things with one swing? Trained, remember? I pulled my arm back. Val was more concerned about Evelyn. He told her she needed to talk to her husband Dandy about choosing safer digging spots. This time she got lucky. I happened to be nearby. Next time she might not be. But we all knew talking to Dandy was pointless. He'd been decent when Evelyn's father was alive. After the old man died, Dandy showed his true colors, hitting Evelyn, taking all the settlement's money to fund his supposed gang career in Red Wolf City. Nobody even knew if his gang connections were real. If they were, why did he keep draining his wife's tiny settlement of every copper? The dark creature surge ended everyone's workday early. On the way back, I handed wolf meat to Warren and Evelyn. Warren grinned ear to ear. Evelyn said little, but her eyes showed real gratitude. That night, I spent 30 energy points upgrading the well 3 more times. Daily output hit 10.9 cubic meters. Enough for irrigation, drinking, and a much larger population. I needed more people. My workforce was stretched thin between the fire date orchard and the iron digging. Next morning, I rode 20 miles southeast to the 2 remaining oases from Leona's intel. They sat close together, forming a gourd shape, a small one of about 3 acres and a larger one around 6 or 7 acres. Hunters called the big one the Death Oasis. People went in and never came back. Nobody knew why. My map showed something strange. The small oasis was packed with animals. The large one was nearly empty. That made no sense. Bigger territory with more food should attract more wildlife, not less. I cleared the small oasis first. No magical beasts, just a few wolves and herbivores. Found 7 fire date trees, including 1 mature giant. Decent haul. Then I entered the Death Oasis. Immediately, the air turned cooler and quieter. The birdsong stopped. Thick vegetation blocked the light. 2 large fire date trees appeared, encouraging. I pushed deeper. Then my spine went cold. My map showed a large living creature just 30 meters ahead. I climbed a tree trunk and scanned everywhere. Nothing visible. Even my health bar system couldn't detect anything. Something was watching me. Something my system couldn't fully identify. The mystery of the Death Oasis had me spooked. My map showed living things, but my health bar system couldn't detect them. I climbed down from the tree and started to leave, then heard something slithering nearby. I threw my axe into the undergrowth. That stirred up a hornet's nest. Branches thrashed and vines whipped around. I drew my sword and charged forward. What I found stopped me cold. The creatures were carnivorous vines, a magical plant called a level 1 flesh-eating green vine. 30 years old, 6 tendrils, attack range of 50 meters from its root. That's why my health bar couldn't find it. I'd been scanning above ground while it hugged the dirt, camouflaged among normal plants. Mystery solved. The Death Oasis wasn't haunted. It was infested with these predatory vines. Hunters who wandered too close got grabbed and dragged under. I found over a dozen red dots on my map, and most turned out to be more of these vines. The rest were regular animals, too dumb to know the danger. I decided to leave the vines alone for now. As long as I stayed outside their 50-meter kill zone, they couldn't touch me. The real treasure, 30-plus fire date trees. 15 over 5 years old, 5 fully mature. The vines had kept humans out for so long that the trees grew undisturbed. I'd leave the young saplings to keep growing here and come back for them in a couple years. 22 trees worth taking right now. Incredible haul. I headed back to my horse at the oasis edge, already planning the return trip with workers. My horse was gone. No blood, no signs of struggle, just a set of human footprints in the sand that weren't mine. Someone had stolen my horse while I was inside exploring. I'd been out hunted in the wild. My map showed a green dot, my horse, moving with 8 red dots, about 3 miles southeast. I had no choice but to chase on foot under the blazing sun. All my supplies were on that horse, and I had 20 miles to walk home without it. An hour later, I tracked them to a small settlement. I walked straight to the entrance. 3 men blocked my path. This is the Danny settlement. No strangers welcome. Someone here stole my horse. Give it back. No idea what you're talking about. We're honest iron diggers. Get lost. One of them slipped away to warn the others. Their reaction confirmed everything. They knew exactly where my horse was. A chestnut workhorse, taken from outside the gourd oasis. Stop playing games. Return it before I lose my temper, or this gets very ugly. When I mentioned the gourd oasis, their eyes went ice cold. One of them reached out to shove my shoulder. The guy reached for my shoulder. Bad idea. I grabbed his wrist like a vice. He tried to pull free, couldn't budge. I smiled at him, then stopped smiling. You stole my horse and now you're touching me? Let me show you why flowers are so red. 5 slaps later, for teeth on the ground, he collapsed and started twitching. His partner watched in horror. When I turned to look at him, he threw his hands up immediately. I grabbed his collar and gave him the same treatment. 5 hard slaps until his face looked like a ripe tomato. Know where my horse is now? Yes. Please stop hitting me. He led me into the settlement. Right on cue. 6 men came charging out of an alley with clubs and axes. Someone had run ahead to warn them. Their leader was a big man named Danny. You dare cause trouble in MY settlement? Danny screamed, raising his axe. Give me my horse, and I'll go easy on you. Keep talking, and I'll stuff your heads back where they came from. Danny charged. He swung his axe down at me with everything he had. I swung mine casually, one-handed, and knocked his weapon clean out of his grip. It went spinning through the air. Before he could process what happened, my right fist slammed into his chest. Ribs cracked. He flew backward into 2 of his own men, knocking all 3 down. I moved through the remaining fighters like a whirlwind. Left hook, right cross, left again. Every man who stood up got knocked flat with 1 hit. The whole fight lasted maybe 10 seconds. The 2 guys Danny had crashed into quietly dropped their weapons and lay back down, shaking. I stepped on Danny's chest. Done sleeping, he'd been playing dead. My boot on his broken ribs fixed that. Please. We're sorry. I'll give back the horse. You made me run 10 miles in the desert sun. Then you cursed at me. Now you want mercy? I'll call you boss. Anything. The horse is in the shed behind us. Please stop stepping on me. I'm going to die. I don't want followers who steal. You. Go get my horse. I pointed at one of the men lying behind Danny. He jumped up like he'd been electrocuted and sprinted to the shed. Once he was gone, I looked down at Danny. Now we're going to play a game. I ask questions, you answer. Understand? What do you want to know? If we answer, will you let us go? I ask, you answer. Not the other way around. Understand? Why yes. How did you find my horse? Total accident, I swear. We went to the oasis for water, saw the horse tied to a tree with nobody around, and just took it. Danny was crying real tears now, regretting everything. What he thought was a gift from the gods turned out to be a death trap that brought me to his doorstep. I kept pressing. They'd been stealing for about a month. Hit 7 or 8 small merchant caravans near Red Wolf City. Their trick was simple. Start a fake fight to draw attention while partners grabbed goods from unguarded carts. They'd swiped linen cloth, wheat, iron scraps, an empty cart, and a camel. The reason for the crime spree? Their well was dying. 2 months ago, daily water dropped to almost nothing. Their 2 fire date trees had withered. Danny knew the settlement was finished, so he started stealing to fund an escape to Red Wolf City, planning to abandon his villagers. Then the guy I'd sent to fetch my horse came back leading not just my horse, but also the stolen camel. Danny's face crumbled. That camel was worth 5 gold coins, more than the horse. Good, I said. I'll hold on to this camel. When I find a rightful owner, I'll return it. We both knew I'd never find the owner. Danny nodded miserably. You're a good man. Then I had an idea. This settlement had 30-plus villagers about to lose their water source. I needed population for Babylon. 20 miles away, definitely not stealing from neighbors. Send 3 of your guys to bring every villager back here. Now, While they fetched people, I checked the settlement's well and fire date trees. The well was nearly mud. 2 trees were almost dead, leaves brown, fruit rotting on the ground. My system scanned them, an 8-year tree and a 15-year tree, both dying from extreme dehydration. 1 energy point each to save them. 2 points spent. The last few drooping leaves perked up and turned green before my eyes. 2 more trees from my collection, practically free. The workers returned, over 30 thin, hungry villagers. Perfect. All right, Danny, we're done. You and your boys can leave now. He stared at me, mouth opening and closing. He wanted to argue, but remembered what my fists felt like. We're going. Right now. Danny and his crew shuffled away. He'd been planning to ditch these villagers anyway once he had enough money. The only thing eating him was losing that 5 gold coin camel. I now had 30+ new settlers, 2 rescued fire date trees, my horse back, and a camel. Not bad for getting robbed. Once Danny and his crew limped away, I told the villagers the situation. Their settlement was dying, and I was taking them somewhere with water. They didn't argue, didn't even ask questions. These people were numb from hardship. They just wanted to survive. I had them pack up everything useful, dig up the 2 rescued fire date trees, and scrape out all the black soil around them. Every bit of imported soil was precious, no point leaving it behind. 1 horse carried a tree. The camel carried the other. We set off for Babylon. The gourd oasis would have to wait until tomorrow. Too late now, sky already darkening. 2.5 hours later, we approached Babylon in the dark. Shouting erupted ahead. Val came charging out with a torch in one hand and a club in the other. This is Iron Alliance territory. Strangers aren't welcome. Warren stepped forward too, flexing his muscles in the firelight. The new villagers froze. I sat up from where I'd been lounging on a fire date branch dragging along the ground. Relax, guys. It's me, Alan. Where have you been? They'd been worried sick. Everyone knew the gourd oasis was called the Death Oasis for a reason. I explained the horse theft, the chase, the beating, the camel, the new villagers. 37 people, 2 fire date trees, 1 camel, all from a single detour. Warren's jaw dropped. You lost a horse and came back with a camel, 30 villagers, and fire date trees? Val, lend me your horse tomorrow. Maybe I'll get lucky too. Val rolled his eyes. Sure, Warren. Just go beat up Moral Ponytail's crew first, and the horse is yours. Warren deflated. Never mind. As everyone was leaving, Evelyn hung back. She pressed something into my hands, a linen undershirt she'd sewn herself. For saving me the other day. And the wolf meat. I don't have anything better to give. I hope you don't mind. Thank you, Evelyn. I held it up, fit perfectly. She ran to catch up with the others, face red in the darkness. Back inside, Caroline reminded me about my, forgotten, daily punishment. She'd already assumed the position before I could speak. One satisfying slap later, I told her she'd been doing great work lately and left. Behind me, she bit her lip. Am I pathetic? He's supposed to be punishing me, but I'm the one reminding him every day. Next morning, I headed to Dead Night Ruins first instead of the Oasis. Yesterday's adventure had cost me a day of grinding, and I needed to reassign digging zones for my now much larger workforce. Iron income couldn't slip. I had a partnership quota to meet. After setting up the crews and smashing a few stray skeletons, I walked to the Death Mist boundary. The spot where I'd gorged myself days ago still hadn't recovered. A visible gap in the circular mist, several hundred square meters wide. Sustainable harvesting, I muttered. Can't drain the same spot twice. I'll rotate around the perimeter. Take a little from each section. Let each area recover. I stepped into the mist at a fresh section and started absorbing. I stepped into the death mist at a fresh section and the energy started flowing. 100 points in just a few minutes. Beautiful. Then the howling started again from deep inside. I'd pushed my luck far enough. This time I ran before the hounds could even track me. My speed at 2.7 agility made escaping much easier than last time. Behind me, the dark creatures surged to the mist's edge, searched around briefly, then retreated. 2 days in a row of unexplained surges had the bigger settlements near the inner city furious. They couldn't figure out why the dark creatures kept going berserk outside the normal monthly cycle. Nobody suspected the skinny kid from a tiny settlement was the cause. I headed straight to the gourd oasis with several dozen workers. Cleared out the wolves in the small oasis first, dug up those 7 fire date trees, then led 10 people into the death oasis. With my map marking every carnivorous vine's kill zone, we navigated safely around them all. 2 hours later, all 22 marked trees were out of the ground. 6 mature, 12 over 5 years old, for younger ones. Horses pulled the big ones. The camel carried others. Workers shouldered the rest. We got everything back to Babylon before dark. In 1 week, my orchard had grown by 35 trees. 12 mature ones producing about 20 fruits daily each, 17 5-year trees producing 3 to 5 each. Over 300 fire dates per day, 30 energy points just from farming. Plus whatever I earned grinding skeletons and sipping death mist. Next trading day, I walked into Roscoe's trading post and went straight to the partner line. 3 minutes instead of 30. My haul, 930 pounds of iron and 1,385 fire dates. 60 silver coins and 35 copper. What I didn't know was that Roscoe had people watching me. When my numbers came in, his men reported to him immediately. He'd been waiting to catch me falling short of the partnership quota so he could punish me for tricking Tessa. Instead, my numbers were massive, far beyond what my settlement size should produce. Roscoe was baffled but couldn't deny the facts. Tessa overheard everything and was thrilled. See, father? He didn't deceive me. Now keep your promise. Leave him alone. Roscoe was furious but kept his word. His new strategy: keep Tessa locked away from me entirely. He was guarding his daughter against me like I was a wolf circling the sheep pen. I had no idea about any of this. I just knew my partnership was secure. I headed to Courtney's soil shop for more black dirt. The lazy manager was lounging in his chair, as usual. Courtney, has the black soil price come down? Down? It went up another copper coin. Gone up again? Afraid so. Following Red Wolf City's prices this time. Not our doing, Courtney said. I glanced around. Nobody else in the shop. I went to my cart and pulled out 5 pounds of smoked wolf meat, originally meant for Leona. Courtney, sir, you were so kind to me last time. I brought you a little something from a wolf I hunted. His eyes locked onto that meat like a starving dog. Oh, I couldn't possibly. A man in your important position deserves it. Please. I'd feel uneasy if you refused. That did it. Courtney wasn't important at all. He'd gotten this dead-end job because his sister was one of Harris Sandrat's many girlfriends. Nobody in town respected him. Being called, sir, and important, by someone who seemed to genuinely admire him was intoxicating. He leaned in close. How much black soil do you need? 500 kilograms. But at these prices, I'll give you the old rate, 10 copper per kilo. The yard's full of dirt. Harris has no idea which bags were sold at which price. 5 pounds of wolf meat. Worth maybe 70 copper, just saved me over 10 silver coins. Best investment I'd ever made. Courtney was going to be my man inside Harris's operation from now on. Soil loaded, I headed to the dance hall camp to find Leona. She met me at the gate. Here to see me, or here for information? To see you. And also information. She rolled her eyes. Come to see me, but didn't even bring a gift? I did bring one. 5 pounds of smoked wolf meat. But I had to give it to Courtney for strategic reasons. I'll bring you double next time. Promise. She studied my face for sincerity, then accepted. Fine. Wait here while I go buy ingredients. While she was gone, I spotted an archery booth nearby. 1 copper per arrow. Hit the bullseye for prizes. 1 bullseye gets an apple, 2 gets a sand rat, 3 gets a rabbit. 40 meters to the target. Easy distance. I paid 3 copper and took 3 arrows. First shot hit the target, but missed the center by a handspan. Something was off. The arrow curved in flight. The old redneck running the booth had rigged the arrowheads to veer off course past 30 meters. Classic scam. I adjusted for the drift. Second arrow landed 2 fingers from center. Third arrow, dead bullseye. The booth owner nearly choked. He handed over an apple with shaking hands, relieved when I walked away instead of buying more arrows. Behind me, a hunter who'd been watching stepped up confidently. I'll try to. 3 arrows later, didn't even hit the target board. The rigged arrows got him completely. This is rigged. You tampered with the arrows. The owner puffed up indignantly. Sir, I've run this booth for 2 years. My son is a Sandrat town guard. How dare you accuse me? The hunter had no comeback. The old scammer won again. I bit into my apple and smiled. These desert rednecks could hustle with the best of them. Leona came back with groceries. She spotted me outside the booth and warned me about old Chris's rigged arrows. I showed her the apple I'd won. You actually beat him? You might be the only person ever. She took the apple as a down payment on the wolf meat I owed her. Inside her kitchen, she cooked for clients while I ate roasted beans and enjoyed the view. When she finished, she brought me soup and got down to business. More oases, right? You know me well. She leaned in close, hand sliding from my shoulder down to my chest. And what do I get this time? Something snapped. I grabbed her wrist, pulled her forward, and she landed sideways on my lap with a surprised gasp. What would the beautiful Miss Leona like? Her face flushed. She didn't pull away. Boss. Sorry to interrupt. A woman burst through the door. Some customer was refusing to pay. Leona jumped up, shot me a look, and left to handle it. 10 minutes later, she was back with 5 new Oasis locations, all farther out, 40 to 50 miles away. One was supposedly huge, 2 or 3 times the size of a small town. She also passed along a warning. A merchant had reported beast folk raiding caravans near Red Wolf City. Probably wild beast men, the dog-headed or pig-headed kind that walk upright. Not the civilized Bemin orcs who had their own nation, and not the pretty half-breeds like cat girls. These were the dangerous, stupid, aggressive type. Tell Val and the others to be careful, she said. I promised I would. The next morning, I arrived at Dead Night Ruins with 80 workers, ready for a productive day. Instead, I found the entire Iron Alliance huddled together looking worried. What happened? Val grabbed my arm. 2 men came from the Nuka settlement, 500 people, a major group. They told us we're not allowed to dig in these streets anymore. Starting tomorrow, this territory belongs to them. They're not the only ones, Peter added. Every big settlement near the inner city is pulling back to the outer ruins because of the dark creature surges. They're taking our streets. My face must have looked strange because the irony hit me hard. Those dark creature surges that spooked the big settlements? I caused them by gorging on death mist. Now the consequences were literally knocking on my door. Val suggested we just hand over our streets and work as hired labor for bigger settlements. Lose 30% of our earnings, but stay safe. Wait for the Nuka group to get bored and leave. Leave? Why would we leave? I said. They come to our turf, we teach them a lesson. Alan, this isn't like Moral's little crew. Nuka has 500 people and 30 dedicated fighters. Their leader is seriously strong. Not a titled knight, but close. No titled knight? Then no problem. Val tried reasoning with me, called retreating the wise choice. I appreciated his concern, but my strength was at 8.8 now with 2.9 agility. Anything below a titled knight wasn't going to stop me. Besides, I saw an opportunity. I'd felt guilty about the idea of taking over small settlements. Those people were miserable enough. But if Nuka bullied them off their land first, and then I took everything from Nuka? No guilt at all. Perfect moral cover. That afternoon, I did my usual routine, morning aura training, afternoon skeleton hunting, then a death mist session. 90+ energy points before the howling started, and I had to run. Dumped 110 points into Constitution. Strength hit 8.8, agility 2.9. 3 to 5 more days, and I'd reach 10.0, true superhuman territory. Then I did something different. I lured out 6 dark hounds and tried capturing them alive. Harder than killing them. Most died during the struggle. I managed to bag 2, both badly injured. I stuffed them in linen sacks, carried them to an abandoned building near my street, threw them inside, and blocked the door with heavy rocks. My secret weapon for tomorrow. Next morning, Nuka's leader, a man named Nuka Bristlemane, rode out on a cart with 400 people and 30 armed fighters flanking him. He fancied himself a proper lord. Yesterday's warnings had cleared out every small settlement from the area. Streets sat empty, ready for his people. Until he reached our section. 80 of my villagers were digging away like nothing had happened. Didn't we warn these people yesterday? Nuka growled at his lieutenant, a man named Neo. Neo took 5 fighters and marched over. One of them whipped Megan Sandworm across the back with a stick. Didn't you hear our warning? Get your leader out here now. Megan and the villagers ran to find me. Val and the others had come today too, not to fight, but to show solidarity. They didn't have the nerve to sit at home while I faced this alone. Alan, they really brought 30 fighters. Please reconsider. Relax, guys. Notice how I got here an hour early today? I've got a plan. When this is over, meat's on me. I walked forward to meet them. Megan Sandworm came running with tears and snot, showing me the welt on his back. I told him to collect a bowl of meat soup from Caroline tonight as compensation. He instantly stopped crying and smiled. If a daily whipping meant daily meat soup, he'd volunteer. I walked over and found 5 tough-looking men from Nuka's crew. Their leader was Neo, strength 2.5, easily a 3 against 1 fighter. His men were all above 1.5, definitely a step up from the small-timers I'd been dealing with. So you got our warning yesterday and stayed anyway? Neo's face darkened. That's right. You little. Because of you I got chewed out by the boss. Get your people out now, or I'll twist your head off and kick it like a ball. Really? I'd love to see you try. Neo grabbed my collar and tried to lift me off the ground. He strained. I didn't budge. At 8.8 strength, I was an immovable wall. That's all you've got? And you want to twist my head off? I looked at him with pure contempt. He snapped, swung a full power punch at my face. I raised one hand and caught his fist midair. Just held it there. Impossible, he whispered. I didn't let go. My right fist started swinging. 1 punch, 2, 3, 4, each one slamming into his face while I held him upright by his trapped hand. He couldn't fall, couldn't dodge, couldn't even beg. The sound reminded him, as I imagined, of getting kicked in the face by his mother's horse as a child. Stealing my territory? Punch. Hitting my people? Punch. Threatening to kick my head? Punch. Running your filthy mouth? Punch. His 5 bodyguards stood frozen, watching their squad leader get beaten unconscious while still being held standing. When I finally turned toward them and started to say, "Your turn," they were already sprinting away, screaming for their boss. I dropped Neo like a sack of garbage, walked to a nearby ruin where I'd stashed 2 linen bags from yesterday, and headed toward Nuka's main force. Val and the others stared at Neo's bloody heap on the ground, then at each other. Should we follow him? Evelyn asked quietly. She'd come today too. Everyone had. Even without Leona, who didn't know about the situation. We have to, Val said. Up ahead, Nuka Bristlemane heard the panicked report. One man knocked out Neo with a single punch. He took all 30 fighters and marched toward me personally. We met at the alley entrance. He sized me up. I sized him up. Nuka Bristlemane, strength 4.8. The strongest person I'd encountered since entering the desert of death. You're the one who hurt my man? He asked. That's me. And you're Nuka? I'm from Babylon Settlement. A small place. As for Neo, the big useless lump, he's lying back there like a dead dog. Nuka Bristlemane's face went dark. Kid, you've made a very big mistake. No, Nuka. You made the mistake. But I'm a peaceful guy. Take your people and leave the north side of the ruins. Do it now and nobody else gets hurt. He looked at me like I was insane. You see these 30 men behind me? 1 punch each and you're dead. 20 guys don't scare me. Walking or crawling. Your choice. He stopped talking and grabbed a battle axe from one of his men. My eyes lit up. This was a proper military weapon. A kingdom-issued infantry axe with a wide crescent blade. Perfect craftsmanship. No nicks or dents. Way better than my woodcutting hatchet. And at my current strength, I could swing it like a stick. Nice axe, I said. I think I'll keep it. Nuka screamed at his 30 fighters to charge. They rushed me in a mob, clubs and axes raised. I picked up the 2 linen sacks at my feet and hurled them into the crowd. The bags hit the ground and started thrashing. The fighters froze. Then 2 dark hounds, battered, 3-legged, absolutely furious after a night in a sack, exploded out and launched themselves at the nearest humans. Dark hounds, panic. Instant, total panic. These men could have swarmed the crippled hounds and killed them in seconds. But dark creatures trigger a primal fear in people. Nobody thinks clearly. The 30 fighters scattered in every direction, screaming. You should be grateful, I called to Nuka. I only brought 2. Imagine if I'd brought 10. Nuka was shaking with rage. His entire force had collapsed without a single blow exchanged. But he was no coward. He gripped the battle axe and charged me himself. He swung hard. The axe whistled through the air. Val and the others gasped at the raw power behind it. Even Warren was trembling. I sidestepped. The blade missed me by inches. Before Nuka could recover, I grabbed his wrist. Fast, he muttered, stunned. I squeezed. He screamed. The beautiful battle axe clattered to the ground. New weapon acquired. The moment Nathan Main dropped his weapon, I didn't give him a chance to recover. I slammed my fist right into his ribs. He curled up like a shrimp, groaning. I kept going. 1 punch after another. For trying to take my territory, for ganging up on me, for threatening to rip my head off. My fists rained down on him like they were free. I'll give the old redneck credit though. With his 4.8 strength stat, he could take a beating. Most guys would have passed out long ago. Val Ironhide and the others just stood there, jaws on the floor. I could tell they couldn't believe what they were seeing. A mid-sized settlement leader getting pounded without landing a single hit back. Eventually, Nathan broke. I give up. You win. We'll leave and never bother you again. Too easy. I wasn't about to let him off that light. If I didn't put proper fear into him, he'd come back with a grudge later. I didn't want to kill him either. I'm still keeping a low profile, and racking up bodies draws too much attention. Besides, my mini-map showed him as yellow with a hint of green. Neutral with a touch of fear. No hostility. After a few more rounds of convincing, I grabbed his collar. You done? Yes, boss. You're the boss. Good. Remember my name. Alan Gale, Babylon Settlement, Iron Shield Alliance. Cross my path again and I'll beat you again. He nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. When he bent down to grab his battle axe, I glared at him. You lost. That axe is mine now. He forced a smile. Of course, boss. I was just picking it up for you. Then he turned toward his wagon and I called out again. The wagon stays too. I swear the man almost cried. But he just said, whatever you say, boss, and walked away on foot. Beautiful. I checked his dot on my map one more time, still green tinted. Perfect. I swung my new axe around happily and turned to Val and the crew. See? Told you I had it handled. Come on, let's go check out our new territory. Barbecue tonight. My treat. Nathan's settlement had claimed 12 blocks, 8 alleys and 4 streets. Basically the entire northern outskirts of the Dead Rider ruins. Now it was all mine. Empty streets, abandoned ruins, and more ground to dig through than my 100-person settlement could cover in a month. Val looked around with pure envy. You could dig anywhere you want for weeks and still not finish. He was right. I was short on manpower, but I already had a plan. Hire people from other small settlements to do the digging and take a cut. As for Nathan's people, please. They already believe in Gale. I'm just letting Nathan babysit them for now. This whole fight also made me realize something important. I needed to build my own guard squad. I can't keep throwing dark creatures at every mid-sized settlement that picks a fight. That's just not classy. Back at Babylon, the bonfire was crackling and a big slab of meat was roasting over the coals. Val, Warren, and Peter all showed up, and none of them came empty-handed. They brought mushrooms, rum, and black bread. Peter Dunning introduced me to his wife, Martha. She was plain-looking but built like a tank, way bigger than Peter. Total mismatch. But she spoke softly and greeted me warmly. Peter talks about you all the time, I told her with a smile. Says he's got a beautiful, gentle wife. Now I see he wasn't lying. Martha beamed. Peter gave me a thumbs up behind her back. Good start. As the meat finished cooking, we noticed Evelyn Flowers hadn't shown up. Leona was still out in the field, so her absence made sense, but Evelyn had agreed to come. Martha offered to go check. While she was gone, I brought up something that had been on my mind. Any of you know where to find a slave trader around here? Val raised an eyebrow. Slaves? That's big city business. Why do you ask? I explained I wanted to buy a couple of combat-trained slaves to lead a guard squad. I'd never had proper weapons training, and if I was going to build a real force, I needed someone who knew how to fight. Red Wolf City, Peter said. Only place we've heard of. But are you sure you're not just looking to buy a pretty girl? He gave me a look. I rolled my eyes. This guy flirts with everyone and sneaks off to the dancer's quarter. If Martha ever found out, one punch from her would flatten him. Then Warren chimed in, dead serious. If you do want a woman, I'd recommend a half-beast. Rabbit folk or fox folk are the most popular. I did not expect that from the muscle-bound redneck. Noted though. Might be worth checking out someday. Relax, guys. I just want guards. You saw what happened with Nathan Maine. I had to use tricks to scatter his men. I don't want to rely on that again. They loved the idea. Val said even a 20-man squad would make us untouchable against any mid-sized settlement. Of course, they were thinking small, just basic thugs like Nathan had. They had no idea I was planning to build an actual army. Then Martha came back, without Evelyn, and looking worried. It's Danny, she said. Evelyn's husband. He came back from Red Wolf City, and he's beating her badly. He thinks she's been seeing another man. Everyone's face darkened. Apparently Danny was a known piece of garbage. Evelyn worked herself half to death every day digging scrap in the ruins. Nearly got killed by a dark hound once, while Danny sat comfortable in the city. And the first thing he does when he comes home is accuse her of cheating. The reason? The wolf meat I'd given out to everyone in the alliance. Danny couldn't believe someone would just give his wife free meat without wanting something in return. Martha looked at Peter. Please, go check on her. He's hitting her really hard. Nobody was eager to get involved. Danny was like a rabid dog, biting anyone who got close. But Val sighed and said, she's one of us. Let's go. I had no objections. We loaded up the wagon and headed to Evelyn's settlement. 2 miles out, we could already hear the screaming. You shameless whore. Sleeping with other men behind my back? I didn't. You can hit me, but don't accuse me of something I didn't do. Then where did this wolf meat come from? I told you. The new leader of Old Joe's settlement gave it to everyone. Val and Peter got some too. Sure. Nobody gives away meat like this for free. Not out here. The shouting mixed with the sound of fists. Every one of us clenched our jaws. I frowned. The wolf meat I'd given out was days ago, and now it was causing this mess. Val tried to reassure me. Don't take it personally, Alan. Danny's just a paranoid bastard. Peter nodded along. Apparently Danny once accused him of something just for helping Evelyn fix a few wooden hose. I waved it off. I've seen worse. We walked into the settlement and stopped outside Evelyn's door. The argument had shifted. Why is this week's haul so low? Danny was screaming. The inner city area should produce at least 20 pounds of scrap a day, and all you've got is 600 copper coins. There was a dark creature surge. We had to fall back to the outer zone. A surge? Too bad it didn't kill you. You're hiding the money, aren't you? Giving it to your lover. Val's face went dark. He pushed through the door first. Inside, Evelyn's hair was a mess, her face marked with red handprints, blood at the corner of her mouth. Next to her stood Danny, average build, wearing a tattered silk outfit, face full of spite. Get out. This is between me and my wife. Val tried to reason with him, explaining that the wolf meat went to everyone in the Iron Shield Alliance. He and Peter each got 20 pounds. It was just a friendly gesture. Danny wasn't having it. You expect me to believe one guy handed out that much meat for free? What is he, a god? The man was beyond reason. A total rabid dog. You could explain everything perfectly, and he'd still find a way to twist it. Val kept glancing at me nervously. Not because he was worried about Danny getting hit, but because Danny claimed to have connections with some gang called the Scorpion Brotherhood in Red Wolf City. Those guys were serious trouble for small settlements like ours. I wasn't bothered. A mad dog like this didn't even register on my radar. But trouble has a way of finding me. Danny spotted me in the back of the group. Or rather, he spotted the linen shirt I was wearing. His eyes turned vicious. You're the new leader of Old Joe's settlement? That's right. He spun on Evelyn. You lying whore. That shirt, you sewed it. Now he's wearing it. I frowned. Caroline picks out my clothes every day. Just my luck to be wearing the one Evelyn had given me as a thank you gift. She gave me the shirt because I saved her from a dark hound and shared some food, I said calmly. As a man, maybe you should spend more time caring about your wife. You dare lecture me? Do you know who I am? Danny glared at me. I'm with the Scorpion Brotherhood in Red Wolf City. Killing you would be easier than stepping on an ant. Then he really showed his true colors. Since you've been messing with my wife, I'll give you one chance. Pay me 10 silver coins, and I'll let it go. Otherwise, you're dead. That completely broke my brain. If he'd said he wanted to fight me, fine, that would at least make sense. But demanding money? He was literally selling his wife's honor for coins. This wasn't jealousy or love. It was greed and control, pure and simple. Evelyn finally snapped. Danny, enough? What do you think I am? Val and the others spoke up too, defending my character. But Danny just threatened them, said he'd bring the Scorpion gang to flatten their settlements. They went quiet. They couldn't afford that kind of enemy. Danny grinned, swaggering toward me. Evelyn rushed forward and put herself between us. Don't touch him. I told you, there's nothing between us. He's a good person. Move. He doesn't get to play for free. 10 silver coins or else. Danny raised his hand to slap her again. But before his palm reached her face, my hand shot out and caught his wrist. I sighed. I really didn't want to get dragged into this mess. But this guy was digging his own grave with both hands. What could I do? You dare stop me? Danny glared at me, not realizing how much trouble he was in. I didn't waste words. I stepped past Evelyn and slapped him right across the face. I'm not just stopping you. I'm going to beat the hell out of you. His ears were ringing. He stared at me in disbelief. You've made a big mistake. I'm with the Scorpion Brotherhood. The Scorpion Brotherhood? I'll kill you. Flatten your settlement. Kill me? Flatten my settlement? Who gave you that kind of courage? What followed was a long symphony of slaps. One after another. Danny started out defiant, but by the end his eyes were glazed, blood and broken teeth flying. Nobody in the room moved to stop me. Not Evelyn, not Val, not anyone. Stop. Please. I'll die. Oh, now you're scared? Where's all that gangster attitude? I only stopped when he could barely breathe. Then I tossed him on the ground like a rag and asked Val to bring me a bucket of water. I splashed it in Danny's face. He gasped back to life, saw me crouching in front of him, and scrambled backward in terror. Don't hit me again. I was wrong, boss. You can have Evelyn. Do whatever you want with her. Just stop hitting me. Charming. He was offering up his wife like property. I ignored his pathetic deal and turned to Evelyn instead. Evelyn, your call. Do we kill him? Or what? She hesitated. Danny grabbed onto that like a lifeline, begging and crying, promising to divorce her, swearing he'd never come back. Evelyn couldn't bring herself to say it. Just let him live. But he can never come back to my settlement. I frowned. A guy like Danny probably wouldn't stay grateful for long. But it was her decision. Fine. You heard her. Get out. If I ever see you again or hear you've touched Evelyn, I'll rip your head off and stuff it somewhere unpleasant. Understand? Yes, boss. Completely. He scrambled out the door, clutching his swollen face, and disappeared. The room went quiet. I looked at Evelyn. He's gone for now, but don't trust his promises. Watch your back. She lowered her head. I've wanted to leave him for years. But he always threatened to bring people to destroy the settlement. I wanted to tell you to kill him just now, but I couldn't say it. I'm sorry, Alan. I shook my head. She wasn't the type to order someone's death. That was just who she was. Not exactly a saint, but too soft-hearted. If she could have done it, she would have cut his throat years ago. Honestly, I was about 90% sure Danny's gang connections were fake. What real gangster is so broke he has to come shake down a tiny settlement for scraps? So even with him alive, I wasn't worried about revenge. We said our goodbyes and headed back to Babylon. The barbecue was still waiting, and wasting food is a sin. Young master, did you forget something again? Caroline was already in position when I got home. Right. My bad. I gave her the usual swat. One firm but measured slap. The punishment I'd given her a month ago should have been over by now, but I never officially ended it, and she never asked. In fact, if I forgot, she'd remind me herself. A perfect understanding between master and servant. I'd been going lighter lately, but I always paused for a second afterward to keep up appearances. I'm truly a one-in-a-million master, I sighed to myself. Then I headed out to the Dead Rider ruins. I had plans to explore those oasis locations I'd recently discovered, but first I needed to arrange work zones for my villagers and farm some energy points. I used my mini-map to assign 3 days' worth of digging areas. Even with 15 streets of territory, my people could only cover 4. The rest sat empty. After I finished farming points, I need Val and the others to help me recruit more people. Farming energy points went smoothly. I collected 100 points total and bumped my strength up to 9.0. My full stats now looked like this: strength 9.0, agility 2.9, intelligence 2.2, charisma 2.5, and my special rank was bronze knight level 6 out of 10. Satisfied, I headed toward my new territory. But when I reached the edge, I spotted about 30 people digging up scrap metal on my land. The moment they saw me, they panicked. They grabbed their tools and started running. I followed. A middle-aged man stepped forward, hands up. Please, sir, we mean no harm. We'll leave right now. Which settlement are you from? Just a small one, sir. We've only been here a short while. Do you know this is my territory now? His face went pale. He looked me over again. You're Alan, the boss of Babylon. You've heard of me? Everyone has. You beat Cyrus Dung, Morris Ponytail, and just yesterday you drove off Nathan Maine's entire mid-sized settlement. Please don't hurt us. We'll give back everything we dug up. His people immediately dropped their scrap on the ground. Word had spread fast. Apparently I was known around here as the Brute Kid, a one-man wrecking crew who could take down a whole settlement by himself. I looked at their pitiful pile, barely a couple of pounds of scrap. Keep it. But tell me, do you want to keep digging here? The man caught on instantly. What percentage would you take, sir? What do others charge you? Used to be 40%. But since the dark creature surge, it went up to 50. We can barely survive on what's left, 50%. No wonder they'd risked sneaking onto my turf. Here's the deal. You can dig on this street. I'll only take 20%. 20? Really? Really? And I need 4 or 5 more small settlements to work the rest of my land. If you know people, bring them in. The man practically wanted to kneel. Thank you, Master Allen. I'll go tell everyone I know. They'll be thrilled. One more thing. Don't call me boss. Call me Master Allen. I don't like boss. Yes, Master Allen. That problem solved itself nicely. I told Thomas to handle the daily collections at dusk, then loaded up my camel and set off to explore the oases I'd been meaning to check out. The nearest one was about 30 miles away. It took me half a day to reach it. A small patch, roughly an acre. Nothing dangerous inside, just rabbits, sand rats, and birds. Hunters had picked it clean, but I managed to find 2 young fire date trees hidden in the weeds. I dug them up and moved on. Over the next 2 days, I explored 4 oases total. The 2 larger ones, over 5 acres each, had wolf packs, which kept most hunters away. That meant plenty of fire date trees survived. My haul came to 35 trees, 23 under 5 years old, 5 under 10, and 7 fully mature. Most were too heavy to carry, so I marked them and planned to come back with help later. On the afternoon of the last day, I reached my final destination, a massive oasis, over 10 acres, thick with green forest. If it weren't buried so deep in the desert, some big settlement would have claimed it long ago. But as I crested the dune, I noticed something. People, quite a few of them, split into 2 groups facing each other in a standoff. One side had about 20 people including women, children, and elderly. The other was all fighting-age men. I thought for a moment, then circled around to the side. I slipped into the forest quietly and crept closer to get a better look. I crept through the trees and listened. Dudley, please let us go. We've handed over everything. We swear we're not hiding anything. The hunter leader, Morris, was begging. From what I could piece together, his group had found 2 magic beast cubs in the oasis. Word got out, and a gang called the Venom Fong Brotherhood showed up to take them. Dudley, the gang leader, laughed. Maybe you're telling the truth. But only dead men keep secrets. Morris went white. You never planned to let us go, 2 magic beast cubs? Even the big settlements would kill for those. Can't risk anyone talking. He ordered his men to wipe out the hunters, kill everyone except the women. The fight broke out, but it was hopeless. Morris only had 4 or 5 able fighters. The rest were women and children. Within minutes, 2 hunters were down and the others were fading. Morris collapsed to the ground, slashed open. God, punish these monsters, Dudley sneered. Out here, we are the gods. One of his thugs charged at Morris with a spiked club, ready to cave in his skull. Morris's wife and child screamed. That's when I let my first arrow fly. It caught the thug right through the neck. He dropped. A second arrow took out another one before they even knew what was happening. There's someone in the trees. Rush them. Dudley raised his wooden shield and led the charge toward the forest. They had 20 meters to cover. I put 3 more arrows into them before they reached me. 5 bandits down total. Dudley burst through the tree cursing, then stopped when he saw me. Just some young guy with a bow. A kid? You're the one who did this. I tossed the bow aside and drew my battle axe. Don't worry, old man. You'll be joining your boys soon. Kill him. Slowly. I want him to suffer. 10 of them came at me at once. Hatchets, machetes, spiked clubs. I'd already checked their stats. The regular thugs sat around 1.6 strength. Dudley was the strongest at 3.5, which was still weaker than Nathan Maine. For a gang sub-leader, I guess that made sense. His real qualifications were greed and a complete lack of morals. I wasn't holding back this time. These weren't redneck settlers with yellow dots on my map. These were killers. I charged. Before the first one could react, my axe was already coming down. Blood sprayed in the sunlight. I didn't stop. With 9.0 strength and 2.9 agility, none of them could last a single exchange. One by one they fell. When the last underling hit the dirt, Dudley was drenched in cold sweat. Who are you? Just a kind stranger passing through. Wait. Don't come closer. I'll pay you. 50 silver coins. I kept walking. A gold coin. A gold coin and 50 silver. That's everything I have. And I swear I won't come after you. But if you kill me, the Venom Fong boss will hunt you down. I shook my head. With guys like you, I always pull the weeds out by the roots. As for your boss, I'll send him to meet you soon enough. Dudley's eyes went wild with despair. He charged me, shield up, machete swinging. I swung the axe once. His blade flew. His shield shattered. The axe buried itself in his chest. He staggered, looked down at the gaping wound, then turned and stumbled out of the forest. His remaining men saw him come out drenched in blood, then saw me walk out behind him. "Who are you?" One of them stammered. "Just a kind stranger passing through." They looked at each other, then bolted. Didn't even try to save their boss. I picked up a hunter's bow and dropped all 4 or 5 of them before they got far. Then I checked. Dudley had collapsed in his own blood. No survivors. I turned to the hunters. "Everyone okay?" Morris and his people dropped to their knees, thanking me over and over. The women were crying, the children clinging to them. "Get up. Name's Alan Gale. I just happened to be passing through. But I heard you mention magic beast cubs. Tell me about that." No point being subtle. "Out here, if you've got the strength, you talk straight." Morris explained everything. 2 weeks ago, they'd found 2 ground spike lizard cubs in a large oasis about 60 miles away. The mother was gone, probably killed. The cubs were newborns, eyes still shut, and extremely valuable. Properly trained, they could become war beasts. A grown ground spike lizard is 8 meters long, covered in heavy armor plates, and can shoot earth spikes from the ground. Even titled knights would rather face 2 magic wolves than 1 adult lizard. They'd planned to sell the cubs, but one of their guys got drunk and told a dancer at a brothel. The Venom Fong Brotherhood came and took the cubs. Morris thought it was over, but that night the gang came back to kill them and silence all witnesses. They'd been running ever since. Where's their camp? How many total? About 30 miles from here, in an oasis. Maybe 40 or 50 men, including the ones you killed. Dudley was their second in command. The real boss is Ezra Venom Fong. Is Ezra a titled knight? I don't think so. Are the cubs still at the camp? Yes. Ezra plans to raise them himself. That made sense. 2 war lizards would make Ezra untouchable in a few years, so of course he needed to kill all witnesses. Smart plan, honestly. Too bad for him. I definitely wasn't going after those cubs because I wanted them for myself. No, I'm just a man who hates injustice. Naturally. Morris, can you still move? I need someone to guide me to their camp. He hesitated. Are you sure? Ezra is much stronger than Dudley. If he's not a titled knight, he's dead. Let's go tonight. We hid the women and children in the desert a couple miles from the oasis. Then the 5 hunters led me toward the camp, 30 miles away. By the time we arrived, it was fully dark. The camp looked like any other settlement. No walls, no towers. But no women or children either. A pure bandit den. My mini-map showed 3 hidden sentries. 22 people total inside. Every single dot was red. The plan was simple. Morris and the hunters would charge the front gate to draw attention. I'd sneak around the back. They marched straight in, and the sentries spotted them fast. Stop. This is Venom Fong territory. Get lost or die. Morris started shooting arrows and shouting about revenge. The shots missed. 80 meters is too far for real accuracy, but the noise did its job. Alarm bells rang through the camp. Ezra Venom Fong stomped out of his house, furious. Didn't Dudley take care of these hunters? How are they here? How many? Just 5, boss. But they've got bows. Ezra was no fool. He ordered 6 men to circle around behind Morris while he kept the hunters distracted from the front with conversation. Morris, I remember you. You handed over the beast cubs willingly. Why attack us now? Because you sent Dudley to wipe us out. You lying snake. Dudley attacked you. That's news to me. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Put down the bows. Let's talk. Pure theater. While Ezra stalled, his 6 guys were creeping up behind Morris in the dark. What Ezra didn't know was that I'd already slipped in behind his own group. I was carrying a machete, dressed rough enough to blend in. The last bandit in line even glanced back at me. I nodded at him. He shrugged and looked away. Then, right when Ezra's ambush team was about 30 meters from Morris, I decided to be helpful. Hey, the danger's behind you. I called out casually, pointing toward the sneaking bandits. Morris spun around, saw the 6 guys, and his hunters opened fire. 2 or 3 bandits dropped screaming. The rest dove behind sand piles. Ezra whipped around and glared at me. Are you out of your mind? You want to die? You're the one who's out of his mind, old redneck. You dare talk back to me? Talk back? I'll do more than that. I slapped him across the face. The bandits around us just stood there, brains short-circuiting. Someone had slapped their boss. Nobody could process it. Ezra's head was spinning, but the hit knocked some sense into him. Wait, you're not one of mine. Who are you? The guy who's here to kill you. I raised the battle axe. Moonlight caught the blade. Ezra's strength was 6.3. Respectable for a bandit boss. But against my 9.0, he didn't even get to finish his next threat. The axe came down. Ezra Venom Fong dead. His men froze for half a second, then screamed about revenge and rushed me. I moved faster. The axe flashed and bodies dropped before they could even swing. After a few more fell, the rest broke and ran. Running? I said. I'd promised to pull every weed out by the root. Nobody was leaving this camp alive. The fight was over in 10 minutes. My minimap made sure nobody could hide. Morris led me to Ezra's bedroom, where the 2 ground spike lizard cubs were lying in a wooden crate lined with straw. First time I'd ever seen magic beast cubs up close, and I couldn't stop staring. They looked a lot like pangolins, yellowish armor scales on their backs, short, thick legs with sharp, curved claws. The difference was the head, broad and blocky, and 2 rows of bony spikes running down their spines like a stegosaurus. They stirred awake, wobbling their heads around, searching for food. Adorable little things. I'd happily keep them as pets even if they weren't future war beasts. Morris got excited. Master Allen, their eyes still haven't opened. That was huge. Like most beasts, these lizards imprint on the first living thing they see after opening their eyes. Treat it as their parent. If I could be that first face, their loyalty would be rock solid. Morris tied strips of black cloth over their eyes just in case they opened early. Don't let anyone else handle them until they've seen you first, he advised. The fact that Morris was handing the cubs over to me without question told me everything. Smart man. Brave too. He'd volunteered to fight the bandits without hesitation. Morris, what are your plans now? Our old settlement isn't safe anymore. We don't really know where to go. How about joining mine? He looked surprised. You have a settlement? We assumed you were a wandering knight or some big shot from Red Wolf City. Just a small settlement leader who happens to need hunters. I'll take you all in. We'd love that. Master Allen, on my minimap, all 5 hunters glowed bright green. Perfect. Then came the looting. Morris and his guys searched the camp while I used my map to find a clay pot buried behind Ezra's wall. Inside, 5 gold coins and 2 or 300 silver coins. Bandit camps really do have the best drop rates, I muttered, hugging the pot. All that grinding for scraps before, and 1 bandit raid earned me more than weeks of honest work. Morris reported in. 1 wagon, a bronze bell from the sentry post, smoked meat, rum, plus coins and weapons stripped from the dead bandits. The wagon alone was worth a gold coin. The bell was practical, worth at least 5 silver and very useful for our own settlement. We torched the camp and headed back. By the next morning, we reached the big oasis. I let Morris and his people rest while I explored. This place was dangerous. A large wolf pack and even a sand leopard lived inside. Morris said he'd spotted magic beasts here twice before, which was actually why his group had fled in this direction, hoping the predators might scare off the bandits chasing them. Almost worked too. They were just a hair too slow. Luckily, no magic beasts showed up today. Instead, I found 21 fire date trees, 11 under 5 years, 6 under 10, and 4 fully mature. Almost as many as I'd collected over the previous 2 days combined. Master Allen, you came all this way just to find fire date trees. Morris stared at me like I'd lost my mind. 1 fruit equals 1 copper coin. Good business. I could tell what he was thinking. Out here in the Death Sand Sea, nobody farms fire date trees. It's considered crazy. But Morris was too smart to say that out loud. They do use a lot of water, though, he offered carefully. Water won't be a problem. You'll see. 2 days later, as we approached Babylon, they saw exactly what I meant. A grove of 30 or 40 fire date trees stretched out before us. Welcome to Babylon, I said. Master Allen. Caroline came running before we even reached the gate. She threw herself at me in a full-on hug, and well, let's just say my maid's assets were even more impressive than I'd imagined. She didn't seem to notice. You said you'd be back quickly. It's been 5 days. Thomas and I were worried sick, and the other settlement leaders kept coming by asking about you. Fair point. Solo trips in the Death Sand Sea aren't exactly safe. I introduced Morris and his group as new settlers, hunters I'd picked up in the desert. I told Morris that besides me, he could go to Caroline or Thomas with any problems. Morris and his people had assumed Caroline was my wife. When I said she was my maid, they looked stunned. Caroline immediately switched to her proud, dignified mode. Classic. I sent her to get the newcomers settled and handle the fire date trees and loot, then headed to the Dead Rider ruins to show my face. Val, Warren, Peter, and even Evelyn had all rushed over. They looked relieved. Evelyn kept sneaking glances at me when she thought I wasn't looking. Everything's been fine, Val reported. Nobody dares come near your territory. The Brute Kid's reputation is as big as any mid-sized settlement now. Warren was beaming. Even the other settlement leaders treat us with respect now. All because of you. I checked on my territory next. While I was gone, 5 small settlements had already been recruited to dig scrap across my land. 2% commission was practically charity compared to what the bigger settlements charged, and the small settlement leaders were overflowing with gratitude. Every single dot on my mini-map glowed green. The people's hearts are with me, I thought. My plan was clear now. Keep the commission low, keep pulling these small settlements in. Based on their attitude, if I ever wanted to absorb them outright, most would join willingly, no fighting needed. Thomas gave me the numbers. Our own settlement produced 250 kilograms of scrap daily. The 5 recruited settlements produced another 100 kilograms total, with our 20% cut coming to about 20 kilos. Combined, roughly 300 kilograms a day. The math worked beautifully. Those small settlements kept 80%, but spent almost all of it on survival supplies. My cost for that extra production was basically zero. Meanwhile, compared to working under other settlements, these people's income had multiplied several times over. No wonder they nearly dropped to their knees when they saw me. Word had spread so fast that even more settlements wanted in, but I'd already assigned all my available territory. That night, I went to the well and spent 100 energy points upgrading it.